Blah 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 blah. Wait, I need the. I didn't get to set up the relaxing nature ambiance. That work? Can you hear the relaxing nature ambiance? Hold on. Alright. There we go. Now we're happenstancing. Hello, Puffy. Hi, Phil. Hi, Pride. Oh, I didn't turn on any of the guys. You bring news? What kind of news? Hi, Womp Womp. Oh my god, it's been 11 months? Holy moly. It's almost been a year. What is that? Some sort of syrup. Oh, Ash. I mean, Pride. The truth has been revealed. Ash is fishing in Emporium. Yeah, he surpassed you, I think, a week ago. Mr. Memoriam's Wonder Emporium. So I didn't stream. I was like, I'm trying to do Dun's rigging, and basically all what I've been doing is redoing the mouth over and over again, trying to get the head angles done while going through the chorus. And yesterday I had, like, literally I finished the head angles. Everything was good and solid and golden, and then at some point I deleted a warp deformer, and it's kind of like if you were drawing on the wrong layer and you can't go back anymore. Like, I couldn't do it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. I was now loading. So he doesn't have front bangs right now, which is really sad because I was so close. Anyways, today I finished doing his mouth. But my program is so laggy. I don't know why. Maybe because I have too many. Honestly, I don't know why. But here, I'll show you what I did. This chat log is something. It sure is. He's trying to claim his place again. It's funny because you can't see. Play out of wild. You can't actually see. You're gonna be a dad? Wait, huh? Really? Like, for real? Wait, I missed it. I missed it in all of Pride's fishing. Yes! Wow, congrats! How many months would that be then? What year? When's the baby due? In July? 2 months? Oh my god, that baby's been cooking for a while. A September baby. Or September or August? I don't know. Pride's going cuckoo crazy. Cuckoo crazy bonkers. Okay, here's done right now. So he doesn't have... Look, this is his maid outfit. Thanks for shopping. Wow, it's like... Done by your barber. I'm his barber. I'm his barber. Yay, Pride, thank you for the gifted sub.
Hi, thanks for the gifted sub. I'm Duncott TBA.
See, I'm proud of this mouth. It's been... Oh my god, it's smooth again. Wow, it's smooth. So I have to fix it when it's this angle. I don't like the look of it when it's at that angle. But yeah. I wanted to... Bye, Pride. I hope you surpass it. I wanted to give him... a normal mouth without Febrager, because he has so many programs open. If he has another program open, I worry that his computer is gonna die or something. So anyways, I wanted to make a really good non-V-Bridger mouth for him. So this is it. I'll change it. The X isn't working very well. Oh well. He used to have bangs, but now they're gone. For now. Ah! This isn't the right one! This isn't the right one! I'm a creature! Whew. I'm back. That was a close call. I was a bald creature for a second there. Alright, we have a lot to get through. I think, maybe. Honestly, I don't know what page we are on actually, but we're on chapter 17. So there probably is only like 25 chapters in the book, right? Probably. Maybe I'll look it up. How many chapters in Sunrise Warriors? There are 28. So we have approximately 11 chapters to get through today because I'm not going to be here next week. Yeah. Guys, okay, so I haven't been able to do anything because I've been busy with the rigging stuff, but I got in a partnership, a kind of collab partnership with this app called Kinder World, and I think it like really suits me because it's about like, it's kind of like Neko Atsume, sort of like you go and you check in twice a day kind of thing and water your plant, but it promotes like lots of good mindfulness and taking care of yourself and stuff like that, positivity. So I get to be a partner with them, and I have like an affiliate link, so I'll be linking that eventually, and they're gonna give me like, I can do 2 giveaways with like wow, dang, look at that, with like special codes for items. No, Pappy! Don't dwell into the dark side of things. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous out there. Oh yeah, your Joker arc, right? I hope that it passes soon. Okay. I think that's the main thing I wanted to announce. Dang it, what the heck? There's like, can you hear me scrolling? Not really, huh? Okay, the chapter ends on page 612. Okay? I'm scrolling. These are all blank pages. I'm scrolling. I'm still scrolling. And the next chapter starts on 643. The rest are just blank pages. This PDF's silly. Alright, let's begin. Previously on Warrior Cat Sunrise, if I remember correctly, they came back from their trip with Soul. They brought Purdy along with them, and Purdy's, you know, he's a old man. He's Soul's single defender, his biggest fan, one might say. And that's pretty much it, right? They brought him. He denies all accountability. He says he doesn't deny it. He's just like isn't answering questions. He's being like, you know, like a smarty pants, a smart aleck, one might say, as well. So what happened at the very end of the last chapter? Everybody went to go lay on some hot rocks, like shunning themselves in the sun. And Berry Nose and Honey Fern were kind of like flirting because now they're mates. She got her wish of dating Berry Nose. And then all of a sudden, a snake came out of nowhere and attacked Honey Fern. And that's where we ended. I think she was bitten. All right. Let's go. Hollyleaf pushed her way through the... Wait. I hope I can finish today. Okay. Chapter 17. I think. Yes, chapter 17. Hollyleaf pushed her way through the thorn tunnel. Hi, Sugar! The second time I read that. Okay! Hollyleaf pushed her way through the thorn tunnel with a vole and 2 mice dangling from her jaws. Her hunting patrol had done well, but her nose and paws were numb with cold as she padded over to the fresh kill pile. The leaf bear's sun didn't penetrate the shadows under the trees, and the ground was still frozen. She was dropping her prey on the pile when she heard a shriek from the base of the cliff on the far side of the medicine cat's den. Whirling around, she saw Lion Blaze bolt into the middle of the clearing, his pelt bristling as if a whole clan of enemies were on his tail. "Help! Come quick!" he screeched. "Honeyfern's been bitten by a snake!" Icy terror coursed through Hollyleaf's blood as she rushed across the clearing. They never had a snake in the hollow before. When she reached the cliff, she saw Briarkit cowering at the base of the rocks. The little kit was trembling, her eyes wide with shock. Millie bounded up and drew her away with her tail wrapped protectively around the kit. Berry Nose crouched beside Honeyfern, who was lying on her side with her paws splayed out. Her breath came fast and shallow, and her eyes were full of terror. A thin line of blood on her shoulders showed where the snake had struck. Sorreltail and Brakenfur raced across the warrior's den with the same look of horror in their eyes when they saw their wounded daughter. Cinderheart, Honeyfern's littermate, was hard on their paws. As they skidded to a halt, Sorreltail pressed her muzzle into Brakenfur's shoulder. "No, oh no," she whispered. "I can't lose another kit. Not after Mole Kit. Please, StarClan." "Where's Poppyfrost?" Hollyleaf muttered to Lion Blaze as her brother came running back. Sorreltail needed all her kits right now. "Out on patrol," Lion Blaze replied. He broke off as Leafpool pushed her way through the knot of cats. "Stand back and give me some room," she ordered. Berrynose glared at her. "I'm not leaving," he snarled. Ignoring him, Leafpool crouched beside Honeyfern and rested one paw on her shoulder. "Try not to move," she meowed. Hollyleaf waited expectantly for Leafpool to start helping Honeyfern. Surely she would know what to do. But she hadn't brought any herbs with her, and she wasn't doing anything more than sitting beside the trembling tabby warrior. Leafpool looked up, her gaze sweeping over the crowd of cats and coming to rest on Cinderheart. There was a pleading look in her eyes, so desperate and hopeful that it made Hollyleaf wince. "I don't understand," she thought. "What does she want from Cinderheart?" "Help me!" Honeyfern had begun to twitch and writhe in pain. "My blood is on fire! Help me, please! It hurts so much!" Berrynose stared at Leafpool. "Do something!" he begged. His gaze swept over the cluster of cats. "One of you, do something!" Leafpool didn't seem to hear him. She just dragged her gaze away from Cinderheart and looked down at Honeyfern as she struggled for breath. Sorreltail slid out her claws, her disbelieving gaze fixed on the medicine cat. "Why aren't you doing anything?" Leafpool bowed her head. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "There's nothing I can do. The poison has already taken hold of her." Sorreltail raised her head and let out a yowl of anguish, while Brakenfur wrapped his tail around her shoulders and drew her close. Honeyfern's legs folded into her belly, and her back arched in agony. When the spasm passed, she lay limply, her chest hardly moving to show that she was still breathing. Her legs continued to twitch. Her eyes had begun to glaze over. In silence, Hollyleaf and the rest of the cats shuffled backwards to give Berrynose space to help Honeyfern on her journey to StarClan. The cream-colored Tom crouched over her, stroking her fur with one paw. We would have had wonderful kids together, he murmured, just as strong and beautiful as you. And one day I'll see you in StarClan. Honeyfern's jaw moved and a rasping sound came from her throat, as if she was trying to reply. You saved Briarkit's life, Berrynose went on, bending his head to lick the dying she-cat's head. Every cat in StarClan will honor you. A long sigh came from Honeyfern. Hollyleaf watched helplessly as her friend's limbs grew still and the rise and fall of her chest faded away. Finally, her blue eyes stared sightlessly into the sky. Well. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da. We have a new death! Oops. That's 2 in the last 2 streams. Sad. Rest in peace, Honeyfern. Pain as sharp as the snake's bite pierced Hollyleaf. She gazed at Cinderheart's horrified expression, trying to imagine how she would feel if she lost one of her littermates. No! Hollyleaf dug her claws into the earth. That must never happen. Leafpool moved towards Honeyfern's body, but Brakenfur stopped her. Instead, he padded up to Berrynose and rested his tail on the young warrior's shoulder. She's gone, he told him. She hunts with StarClan now. As gently as if he were Berrynose's father, Brakenfur nudged him to his paws and led him away, then nodded to Leafpool. The medicine cat crouched beside Honeyfern with a paw on her chest to check for any signs of breathing. Shaking her head slightly, she mewed to Lineblaze. Find some warriors to help carry her body into the clearing. We need to get her away from the cliff in case the snake is still around. Dude, that snake is just still in the hollow? I'll help, Hollyleaf offered instantly. Lineblaze beckoned with his tail to Spiderleg and Thornclaw, and together the 4 cats lifted Honeyfern's limp body and carried it to a shaded spot not far from the warrior's den. As they were crossing the clearing, Greatstripe appeared through the thorn tunnel, his jaw full of prey. Poppyfrost and Mouse Whisker followed him into camp. As soon as she saw her sister's body, Poppyfrost dropped her fresh kill and raced over. What happened? She wailed. Honeyfern, wake up! Sorreltail padded up to her and guided her along after Honeyfern's body, their pelts brushing, until the warriors set the dead she-cat down and her kin could huddle together around her, comforting one another as they kept vigil. The sun still shone, but Hollyleaf felt as if ice were creeping through the hairs on her pelt, and she couldn't stop shivering. Are you okay? Are you okay? She asked Lineblaze. You saw it all happen. Lineblaze gave her a bleak nod, but didn't speak. Honeyfern will be great loss. Honeyfern will be a great loss to her clan. Oh, wait, that's not her. Honeyfern will be a great loss to her clan. Hollyleaf startled as she heard Soul's voice and turned to see that the loner had left his nest. Thornclaw must have left him unguarded when he came to see what was happening. Soul's amber eyes shone with sadness and his head was bowed as he genuinely grieved for the young she-cat. It's hard when a life is cut off so early, he added. Hollyleaf knew she should send him back to his nest, but she couldn't summon the energy. All the other cats seemed too distracted by their grief to worry about what Soul was up to. He might as well stay, she thought. What harm is he doing? Purdy and the elders had appeared too, padding up and mingling with their clanmates. There's nothing worse than losing a young cat, Purdy meowed. She'd had all her life stretching in front of her. It was a fine cat, Mousefur agreed. The last thing she ever did was fetch me some fresh kill. Oh no! The cats were milling around the center of the clearing, unsure what to do. Hollyleaf was relieved when Greystripe strode into the middle of them, raising his tail for silence. Mouse Whisker, he directed, go and fetch Firestar. He took a hunting patrol towards the old two-leg nest. Brambleclaw's on a border patrol, so we'll have to wait for him to come back, as I don't know where he'll be right now. He added as Mouse Whisker pelted off. Leafpool, can you check Briarkit to make sure she's okay? Leafpool nodded. She looked glad to have something to do. Millie guided her kit over to the medicine cat and waited, her claws scraping the ground and her eyes frantic with worry. Daisy followed, keeping a watchful eye on all the other kits, who seemed as shocked as Briarkit. As Leafpool sniffed the kit all over, Hollyleaf murmured to Lionblaze, "She must be all right. Honeyfern couldn't have died for nothing." Finally, Leafpool nodded. "She'll be fine," she told Millie. "I'll give her a poppy seed so she can get a good night's sleep."
"But what about the snake?" Daisy wailed. "We've never had one in the camp before."
"Yes, what about it?" Millie added. "We've got to do something. More cats will die." Graystripe turned to Lionblaze. "Show me exactly where the snake struck." Hollyleaf followed her brother and Graystripe across the clearing towards the basking rocks. She admired the way the Grey Warrior had taken over. He must have been a good clan deputy back in the forest, she realized. "That's the crack that the snake came out of," Lionblaze pointed with his tail towards a deep cleft in the cliff face. "I didn't see if it went back in there." Very cautiously, Graystripe approached and sniffed along the cliff, peering into every crack. "No sign of it," he reported, returning to Lionblaze, "but it could be anywhere. Some of these cracks are very deep. There's plenty of room for it to hide." Hollyleaf's paws tingled with fear. How could they go on living in the stone hollow, when death might come sliding silently out of the cliff at any moment and strike down on another cat? "Millie's right," she meowed. "We have to do something." Before Graystripe could reply, there was a flash of flame-colored fur at the entrance to the tunnel, and Firestar raced back into camp. Graystripe bounded over to meet him. Hollyleaf watched as her leader's expression changed from anxiety to horror as he patted over to Honeyfern's body, where he crouched down beside her grieving kin. Hollyleaf was just close enough to hear what he said. "I'm so sorry." Firestar's voice was shaking. "Honeyfern should have been safe here. I promise you I'll never let anything like this happen again." "But how could you stop it?" Hollyleaf wondered. "It's not your fault. You couldn't have known there was a snake hiding under the cliff." Mouse Whisker had followed Firestar into the camp, along with Dustpelt and Birchfall, the rest of Firestar's patrol. They were soon joined by Brightheart and Jayfeather, each carrying a bunch of catmint. Their dazed expression told Hollyleaf that Mouse Whisker must have met them too and passed on the terrible news. Last of all, Brambleclaw's patrol returned from checking the WindClan border. Their cries of shock and anguish echoed around the hollow. Hollyleaf longed to go back to her nest in the warrior's den and bury herself in the moss and bracken with her eyes shut tight. Perhaps Honeyfern's death would turn out to be just a terrible dream. But before her paws could carry her there, she saw Firestar bounding up the rocks to stand on the high ledge. "Cats of ThunderClan!" He raised his voice to carry to every part of the stone hollow. "A dreadful thing has happened, but we must stay calm. Honeyfern died a warrior's death, protecting a kid of her clan. We will mourn her, not just tonight, but for all the moons to come. And we must make sure that the snake doesn't come back to hurt anyone else." "Tell us what to do and we'll do it," Brambleclaw called out. Firestar dipped his head to his deputy. "To begin with, we'll make a barrier of brambles across that part of the cliff. Dustpelt, will you take charge of that?" The brown tabby warrior gave a curt nod. No cat must go near it. Millie and Daisy, make sure that your kits understand. And it's best we don't use the basking rocks anymore. Snakes usually sleep during Leaf Bear, but I think this one must have been disturbed by cats sunning themselves on the stones. Hollyleaf saw Purdy and Mousefur exchanged a shocked glance. "That could have been us!" Purdy exclaimed. Mousefur hung her head. Her eyes filled with sorrow. "Better it had been me. Better it had been me than that poor young cat," she murmured. "Okay," Firestar meowed. "Get on with your duties, all of you. Tonight we will keep vigil for Honeyfern." He ran lightly down the rocks again and bounded across to Brambleclaw.
"Lionblaze!" Dustpelt called. "Help me with the barrier, please. You can take Foxpaw and Icepaw into the clearing to collect brambles."
"Coming," Lionblaze replied. He paused briefly to touch noses with Hollyleaf, then raced off to round up the two apprentices. Daisy and Millie were gathering their kits together and bundling them back towards the nursery. Don't any of you dare go near that part of the cliff," Millie meowed sternly. "You heard what Firestar said."
"We won't."
Blossom Kit's mew was high-pitched with fear, and all the kits looked unusually subdued. White Wing was following them back to the nursery when Birchfall bounded over to her and pressed his nose into her shoulder. "You will be careful, won't you?" he fretted. The white she-cat blinked at him, her eyes full of love. "Of course I will. You don't have to fuss." Birchfall angled his ears towards Berrynose, still crouched silently over the body of Honeyfern. I won't lose you to StarClan, he insisted. Not for a long, long time. Whitewing and Birchfall leaned into each other, their pelts brushing and their tails twined together. Hollyleaf stood still as the rest of the cats moved away. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to go and comfort Cinderheart, but she didn't dare disturb Honeyfern's grieving kin. She had already begun to pad uncertainly towards the warrior's den when Leafpool trotted up to her. Hollyleaf, could you help Briarheart to put the herbs away? She asked. Jayfeather and I are going to check on the queens and kits for signs of shock. Sure. Hollyleaf was relieved to have something to do. She retrieved Jayfeather's share of the catmin and carried it to the medicine cat's den, where Brightheart was already sorting through her bundle of stems. Hollyleaf joined her. It was good to breathe in the scent of herbs that drifted around the den. It reminded her of when she had been a Leafpool's apprentice. I used to get worried when I couldn't remember which herb was which. If only that was all I had to worry about now. I wish we knew a herb that could cure snakebite, Brightheart murmured sadly as her forepaws flicked through the leaves, deftly stripping off any that were shriveled or damaged. Hollyleaf nodded, but she knew that no amount of wishing would bring Honeyfern back. Her ears flicked up at the sound of a cat brushing past the bramble screen. She glanced over her shoulder to see Leafpool coming in. I need some poppy seeds for Daisy, the medicine cat explained. She's getting hysterical. I can't say I blame her, Brightheart mewed. If I had kits now, I'd be terrified. Leafpool collected the seed in a leaf wrap and was about to leave the den when Firestar put his head into the brambles. Yes? Leafpool asked. There was an edge to her tone that Hollyleaf didn't understand. We need to make sure the snake isn't a threat to us, Firestar meowed quietly. Leafpool blinked, puzzled. What do you want me to do? I can't summon the snake out of its hole. No, Firestar replied, but you can make sure that it never reaches the main part of camp. I want you to put death berries around the place where the snake came from. Hollyleaf felt her paws freeze to the ground as soon as the clan leader mentioned death berries. She exchanged a shocked glance with Brightheart. Every cat knew that Leafpool refused to have death berries in the camp because they were so dangerous. Firestar, you know, the medicine cat began. Explain it to the kits, and to every single cat, what the berries are and why they mustn't be touched or eaten. Firestar interrupted her. They'll understand. We have to do this. I will not lose another cat this way. Leafpool hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. Very well. Jayfeather and I will collect some today. But I don't like it, she added more forcefully. If the death berries don't kill the snake within 1 moon, we'll have to try something else. Chapter 18. I wonder if any other cats die. I can't remember, honestly. Ooh. I like how Pride is still fishing. That's how much he redeemed. He's still fishing. Chapter 18. Lineblaze led Foxpaw and Icepaw into the forest to collect brambles. He felt numb. The terrible scene kept repeating itself endlessly behind his eyes. Was there anything I could have done? If I'd been quicker, maybe if I leaped for the snake, I could have killed it first. Both the apprentices were still trembling with fear, spooking at every leaf rustle, as if they thought a snake might be hiding in every hollow. And for all I know, they're right. I can't believe we got Soul and the snake in the camp, Icepaw mewed, jumping aside with her fur bristling as an oak leaf drifted to the ground beside her. I wonder if Soul summoned the snake to kill Honeyfern, Foxpaw added, his voice shaking. Don't be ridiculous. Lineblaze's voice came out louder than he'd intended. Both apprentices jumped backwards. The snake was just there. It could easily have bitten Soul instead of Honeyfern. I wish it had, Foxpaw muttered. Lineblaze didn't say anything. Hadn't there been enough death in the clan already? He led the apprentices to a bramble thicket near the beginning of the old thunder path and crawled underneath to bite the long, thornless stem at the bottom. The 2 apprentices hesitated at the edge of the stone, blinking nervously. Come on, Lineblaze urged them. What's the matter? Are there any snakes in there? Icepaw whimpered. If they are, I'm dead, Lineblaze replied irritably. Okay, he added with a sigh. I'll bite through the stems and you drag the tendrils out. For a while they worked steadily, and the pile of bramble tendrils began to grow. Then Foxpaw stopped with the end of a stem in his mouth. "What's wrong?" Lineblaze asked. "I need you to get that one out of the way so I can reach the next one." Foxpaw dropped the tendril. "I can smell WindClan." Icepaw let go of the stem she was dragging to the pile and tasted the air. "No, it's RiverClan," she exclaimed. Quickly, Lineblaze wriggled his way out of the thicket and took a breath. "You're both right," he meowed, his neck fur beginning to rise. "And there's a ShadowClan scent as well." "Huh?" Foxpaw laid his ears flat and crouched low to the ground. "Are we being invaded again?" he shrieked. "I don't think so." Lineblaze forced himself to stay calm. "These scents aren't strong enough for lots of cats." Gesturing with his tail, he added, "Stay behind me, and don't do anything unless I tell you." The two apprentices huddled together, close to his hind paws, while Lineblaze faced the undergrowth from where the scents were approaching. A clump of bracken quivered, and Blackstar... Huh? And Blackstar of ShadowClan stepped into the open, followed by Rowanclaw. A heartbeat later, Leopardstar and Reed Whisker appeared, and hard on their paws came One Star and Tornir. Huh? All three leaders! Lineblaze stared at them, his heart racing. What kind of patrol is this?
"Greetings, Lineblaze." Blackstar dropped his head. "We need to speak with Firestar."
Okay, Lineblaze meowed. "Follow me. Foxpaw, Icepaw, bring back the brambles, please." Leaving the apprentices to their task, he led the visitors back to the stone hollow and through the thorn tunnel. The clearing was quieter than when he had left. Honeyfern's body still lay in the shade. Her family crouched around it, keeping vigil alone until nightfall. Soul had disappeared. Thornclaw was back on guard duty outside his nest. The queens and kits had retreated into the nursery. Firestar was standing in the middle of the clearing, talking to Graystripe and Brambleclaw. All three cats looked up in surprise as Lineblaze emerged with his unusual patrol following. "Greetings," Firestar mewed, dipping his head courteously to the other clan leaders. His tone was wary and his neck fur was beginning to bristle. "What can I do for you?" Blackstar didn't bother to return his greeting.
"Is Soul here?" he demanded.
Is it true that he killed Ashfur?
Leopardstar added. One Star bared his teeth with a snarl.
When were you going to tell us that you're keeping a murderer captive?"
Firestar's ears pricked and his tail tip twitched from side to side. Lineblaze could see shock in his green eyes. "How did you find out so quickly?" he asked. "One of my patrols saw your cats returning with Soul along the edge of the lake," One Star replied, his voice tense with anger. "They told the RiverClan patrol, and RiverClan passed on the news to ShadowClan." Firestar's gaze flicked from one leader to the next. "Since when was this any of the other clans' business?" he meowed icily.
"Since you put our clans in danger,"
Leopardstar retorted. "You know how much of a threat that cat is," One Star added, his forepaws kneading the ground. "And yet you brought him back into our territories." Blackstar took a pace forward. Lineblaze could hardly believe that he would attack Firestar in the ThunderClan camp, but he braced his muscles, ready to defend his leader if any of the other cats so much as raised a paw.
"Have you forgotten what Soul tried to do to ShadowClan?" Blackstar hissed. "He tried to force us to stop believing in StarClan."
"And I'm a mouse," Lineblaze thought cynically. A look flashed between Graystripe and Brambleclaw, telling Lineblaze that the senior warrior shared his thought. Blackstar wasn't prepared to admit any responsibility, though at the time he had only been too willing to listen to Soul.
"What are you going to do with him?"
Leopardstar demanded. Firestar hesitated. He was looking increasingly harried, but he kept his claws sheathed. "I haven't decided," he admitted. "We're still trying to find out exactly what happened." One Star's nostrils flared and he narrowed his eyes. "Soul's too dangerous to keep anywhere near the lake. You should send him away now." Oh, hold on. Okay.
Hi, Random. You should have left him where he was, Leopardstar growled. Any cat with a flea's worth of sense would see that.
Then Ashfur's murderer would have gone unpunished, Firestar argued. Vengeance isn't everything, One Star spat. You have put all our clans in danger by bringing Soul back. Whatever happens next, you will not have our support. The other two leaders nodded in agreement, and a threatening murmur came from their 3 followers. A chill ran through Lion Blaze. Though hot blood was pounding in his veins, he wanted to slice his claws through the fur of these arrogant cats. They have no right to interfere in ThunderClan's business like this. Blackstar raised his chin.
Soul must be gone from clan territory by the next gathering, he insisted, or we will unite our 3 clans to get rid of him ourselves.
Chapter 19. Dang, these chapters are short. And then watch the next chapter be like 30 pages.
The Jayfeather chapter. Jayfeather patted in Leafpool's paw steps as she climbed to the ridge where the trees thinned out and pine needles prickled under her paw. He felt the ground grow damp and his paws slipped as he scrambled down the other side into a tangle of undergrowth. As he regained his balance, he picked up the tang of yew bark and berries.
Here we are, Leafpool meowed. I'm going to climb the tree and bend down a branch so you can reach it. She nudged him forward a couple of paw steps. Stand just there.
Jayfeather listened to his mentor scramble up the tree, then a few heartbeats later felt the touch of the yew branch on the top of his head. His fur bristled at the overwhelming scent of deathberries.
Reach up as high as you can. Leafpool's voice came from just above him. There's a stem with berries just there. Be very careful. Like you need to tell me, Jayfeather thought.
He stretched upward, his front paws lifting from the ground, until a feather-leaf twig poked him in the face, and he felt the heavy clump of deathberries touch his fur. He managed to fasten his teeth into the stem where it met the branch, and felt Leafpool's muzzle press close to his as she helped him bite it through. Waves of unhappiness were flooding from the medicine cat, shocking Jayfeather so much that he almost lost his balance. He had to shuffle his hind paws, wedging them more firmly among the damp pine needles before he could go on nibbling at the twig with its deadly load. Leafpool was filled with the gnawing anxiety about bringing more death into the hollow. She was saturated with sorrow, so full of grief that she could hardly move. Yet her voice was steady as she mewed, "That's it." And Jayfeather felt the twig fall to the forest just beside his paws. He relaxed, rolling his shoulders to get rid of the strain of stretching, then picked up the clump of berries by the end of the twig, careful not to let any of the deathberries touch his mouth. A light thump beside him told him that Leafpool had leapt down from the tree. "If you carry that," she told him, "I'll follow behind and make sure that none of the berries fall off. It doesn't matter so much up here, but I don't want to scatter any of them near the camp." When they emerged from the thorn tunnel, the clearing seemed full of cats, their voices buzzing like an angry swarm of bees. Jayfeather located Lion Blaze and padded up to him, setting the deathberries down for a moment to ask, "What in clan's name has happened now?" The other three clan leaders were here. Lion Blaze's voice was a low, furious growl. "They told Firestar he has to get rid of Soul by the next gathering, or they'll get rid of him themselves." "What?" Jayfeather lashed his tail. What right did they have to tell ThunderClan what to do? He could feel sparks of anger coming from Lion Blaze. "They don't care that Ashfur was killed," his brother snarled. "They're like scared rabbits, convinced that Soul is going to leap out and tear them apart. Firestar can't give in to them." Jayfeather murmured agreement, but his paws tingled with unease. He didn't like that the other clans knew all about Ashfur's murder. The ripples of the Grey Warrior's death were spreading further and further, and there was no sign that the effects would fade away. He tried to shrug off the uneasy feeling as he heard Leafpool calling him. "Jayfeather, put all the berries on this leaf. We have to make sure that all the kits know how dangerous they are." She set a flat leaf down in front of Jayfeather, who laid the clump of deathberries on top of it. Then he followed his mentor as she dragged the leaf across the camp to the nursery. "Fetch Foxpaw and Icepaw too," she added. Jayfeather tasted the air to locate the 2 apprentices near the cliff where Dustpelt was building the barrier. "Foxpaw, Icepaw," he called, jerking his head. "Leafpool wants you." "Coming!" Icepaw called. Jayfeather caught a grumble from Dustpelt.
I suppose we'll get this barrier built this side of Greenleaf. Come right back when Leafpool's finished with you, he ordered the 2 apprentices.
Millie, Daisy, Leafpool called when Jayfeather caught her up outside the nursery. Bring the kids out here, please. Why? Daisy's voice was drowsy from the poppy seeds. There's something I need to show all of you. Leafpool and Jayfeather waited while the 2 queens herded the kits outside. Whitewing followed them, crouching in the entrance tunnel. Now, Leafpool began. Do you see these berries? Jayfeather could feel the kits' curiosity, though they were still subdued and didn't answer Leafpool. They look tasty, Bumbleclit ventured after a heartbeat. No, they are not tasty. Leafpool's voice quivered with anger and disgust. These berries are evil. They're called death berries, and if you eat just one of them, you won't just get a bellyache, you'll die. There won't be anything a medicine cat can do for you. Jayfeather knew that wasn't entirely true. Mousefur had told them that Cinderpelt had saved Sorreltail after she ate death berries by making her sick, but it had been a close call. Leafpool had to scare the kids thoroughly, though, so they wouldn't dream of going near the death berries. Then why have you brought them into camp? Daisy fretted. Because Firestar wants to use them to kill the snake, Leafpool replied. I need to make sure that every cat knows not to go near them. Did you hear that? Millie asked the kits sharply. Take a good look so you'll recognize them again. We'll be careful, Rosekit mewed, sounding scared. The rest of the kits murmured agreement. Foxpaw, Icepaw, Leafpool prompted. We'll remember, Foxpaw meowed. We won't touch them. We'll keep a lookout for them when we're out in the forest, too, Icepaw added. Good. Then you can go, but don't forget what I said. Leafpool began to drag the leaf with its deadly load back across the camp, but halted and turned to Jayfeather. Bring me a mouse from the fresh kill pile, please. Jayfeather bounded off, returning with the mouse to the medicine cat's den. It's a good plump one, he meowed. I'm not going to eat it, Leafpool told him. This is for the snake. I'm going to stuff it with death berries. Put it down and keep your paws on it to hold it steady. You'll get poison on your paws, Jayfeather exclaimed. No, I'm going to use a stick to push the berries down the mouse's throat. My goodness. As he clamped his paw firmly over the mouse, Jayfeather could feel his mentor's revulsion of what she was doing. He could almost read her thoughts. I'm a medicine cat. I'm supposed to cure, not kill. But he said nothing while Leafpool went on shoving the death berries into the body of the mouse. I'll only get my fur clawed off if I try to talk to her. Finally, Leafpool let out a sigh. There. That should do. I've poked some thorns in there, too. They'll cut the snake from the inside and send the poison more quickly around its body. Jayfeather nodded. He was surprised how much his mentor hated using her skills like this. Seeing her as a victim was the snake. Seeing as her victim was the snake that had killed Honeyfern. He had been fascinated to discover that there were plants that would harm instead of heal. I wonder if there are others. Pride. Leafpool laid the prepared mouse back on the leaf and dragged it out into the clearing again, over to where Dustpelt was building the bramble barrier around the snake's hole. Lineblaze and the other 2 apprentices were helping him. Jayfeather padded over to his brother, while Leafpool explained to Dustpelt what she had done.
Good idea, the brown tabby warrior grunted. I'll put it behind the barrier, near the hole.
Be careful, Leafpool warned him.
I'll be fine.
Dustpelt meowed, sounding unusually gentle as he reassured the medicine cat.
Look, I'm picking it up by the tail.
Jayfeather heard him leap across the barrier and a moment later leap back.
There, he meowed. All done. Right, what are you waiting for?
He added, swinging around to face his helpers.
Let's get this barrier finished.
Back in their den, Jayfeather and Leafpool wrapped the rest of the death berries in the leaf. We'd better store them in case the mouse doesn't work the first time, Leafpool explained. I don't like it, but... A loud wail interrupted her. Leafpool! Leafpool!
What now? Jayfeather groaned.
He picked up Birchfall's scent as the young warrior crashed past the bramble screen. Leafpool, you've got to come at once, he panted. Whitewing has pains in her belly. All right, don't panic. Leafpool rose to her paws. I'm sure it's nothing serious. Maybe her kits are coming. Jayfeather, put that leaf wrap away, she instructed as she brushed past him. Right. right at the back of the store where no cat will pick it up by mistake. Gingerly, Jayfeather pushed the leaf wrap in front of him and crept all the way to the back of the store, among a litter of old folded leaves and piles of shriveled herbs. "We need to clear this lot out," he muttered as he pushed the deathberries into the furthest corner. Crawling back into the den, he twitched his whiskers with disgust. His pelt was covered with herb dust and clinging stems. He had just begun to groom one shoulder when Leafpool returned. "White Wing is fine," she reported. "It's just a bellyache. I'll take her a couple of juniper berries." She ducked quickly into the store and out again with the berries and a leaf wrap. "I've just remembered," she mumbled around her mouthful. "With all this trouble, I forgot to check on Purdy's sore pads. Can you go and do it now?" "Sure," Jayfeather sighed, resigning himself to putting up with a messy pelt for a bit longer. He fetched the ointment of yarrow from the store and padded over to the elder's den. As he crawled under the outer branches of the hazel bush, he heard Purdy's voice. "What I don't understand is why your Oleg ain't sold. Those other leaders who came here today, they want Firestar to get rid of him." The old tabby sounded flustered. "Why won't any of you listen when I tell you he's a good cat?"
"Purdy, you're not listening when cats tell you what Soul did here." Mousefur sounded as if her patience was wearing thin. And there was never that much of it anyways, Jayfeather thought as he pushed at the edge of the den. Purdy snorted.
"Some nonsense about telling other cats what to believe in. They didn't have to listen if they didn't want to."
"True." Jayfeather suppressed a murmur of amusement. "Purdy's not as stupid as some other cats seem to think."
"StarClan is very important to us, Purdy," Longtail murmured. "You'll understand if you'll stay with us."
"Cats in the sky," Purdy snorted again. "Hedgehogs will fly before I believe any of that. Anyway," he went on, "that's nothing to do with how Firestar is treating Soul now. It's not natural keeping a cat pinned up like that. Firestar needs to come to his senses and let Soul live with the rest of the clan."
Jayfeather padded forward. He could sense Mousefur's anger growing and wanted to prevent a quarrel. Spotting him, Mousefur let out a hiss of annoyance and went to crouch in the furthest corner of the den. "Hi, Purdy, I've come to look at your pads," Jayfeather announced.
"About time," the old cat grumbled. "My paws feel as if they're burning off."
He lay on his side, sticking out his paw for Jayfeather to examine. Jayfeather felt carefully all over 4 of the elder's feet. They were cracked, probably from his long journey, and they felt hot and swollen. "This ointment will help," he mewed, beginning to smooth it on. "Try to stand off with your paws as much as you can. The apprentices will bring you fresh kill." Purdy let out a long sigh.
"That's much better, young'un. You may be a scrawny young piece of nuttin'." "You may be a scrawny young piece of nuttin', but you know what you're doing."
"Thanks a bunch," Jayfeather muttered. "I'll come every day and—" He broke off as Longtail stretched out his neck to sniff at the young cat's pelt. "Jayfeather, that herb—"
"Oh, wait. Jayfeather, that herb."
"What herb?"
"Sticking out of your pelt. I'm not sure, but I think—" "Mousefur, come over here," the blind elder called.
"What?"
Mousefur still sounded grouchy, but she padded back over to Jayfeather and sniffed at his fur. Then he felt her lick off one of the stems he must have picked up when he crawled into the back of the store. She chewed slowly. "What are you doing?" Jayfeather asked.
"That's it! That's it!"
Mousefur's voice was shrill with surprise.
"Jayfeather, that's the herb. Leafpool mixed in with my tansy."
Chapter 20.
The mystery herb! I forgot that was another thing that happened last reading.
They found out that Jayfeather was trying to figure out more about what he remembered, his very first memory, which was trudging through the forest with Squirrel Flight and his 2 siblings, and then another mystery cat. He found out that the mystery cat was Leafpool, guiding them back, and also Leafpool gave Mousefur a weird herb by mistake. Or, not mistake, she claimed it was a mistake, but Mousefur was like,
Mousefur ate it. It was mixed in with her tansy, and then Jay Feather wanted to know what the herb was, so he was bringing herbs to the elders to try and figure out what the herb was. I have some popcorn laying on my desk.
Nom, nom.
Jay Feather wriggled around and sniffed where some scraps of the herb still clung to his pelt. The scent was sharp, and as he pushed his nose against the dried leaves, he felt the crinkled edge. He had no idea what the herb was. Leafpool must have hardly ever used it. She certainly had never told him about it. Rapidly, he finished spreading yarrow ointment on Purdy's pads. That should be fine, he meowed. I'll fetch you some more tomorrow. He whirled around and slipped out of the den, ignoring Purdy's plaintive cry of, "What was all that about?" Racing back to his own den, he found Leafpool curled up in her nest. "Oh, Leafpool, what?" he began, skidding to a halt beside her. Then he broke off. He remembered how defensive Leafpool had been the first time he had questioned her about the mysterious herb. Better keep quiet and find out what I can by myself. Jay Feather, why are you rushing around like that? Leafpool mewed. She sounded bone-weary. I want to have a quick nap before sunset. The clan is sitting vigil for Honeyfern tonight. Sorry. Jay Feather mumbled. To his relief, Leafpool didn't ask him what he had been about to say. This is the night we should travel to the moon pool, she went on. You'll have to go by yourself. I can't leave the vigil. Jay Feather nodded. Okay. He made himself sound calm, but he wanted to bounce up and down like an excited kid. Without Leafpool, surely he could find out something about the mystery herb from the other medicine cats. I need to know. A brisk evening breeze rattled the bare branches as Jay Feather padded through the forest. His earlier excitement had faded. He set his paws down confidently, but inwardly he was full of doubt. What would the other medicine cats say about Soul? When he reached the top of the ridge, he found Barkface and Kesslerpaw waiting for him beside the stream. Just as he reached them, Little Cloud came bounding up from the direction of ShadowClan. Jay Feather's ears perked with surprise as he picked up a cat's scent along with him. Flamepaw! He exclaimed. You remember me! Flamepaw was bubbling over with excitement, like a pool in a rainstorm. I saw you when Tawny Pelt brought me to your camp with Tigerpaw and Dawnpaw. We're kin! He added proudly, No, we're not. A pang of regret shook Jay Feather. He liked the three eager young apprentices. Flamepaw is my apprentice now, Little Cloud announced. Tonight I'll introduce him to StarClan. Congratulations, Jay Feather meowed, touching the young cat on the shoulder with his tail. He remembered how disappointed Flamepaw had been when he and his littermates came to ThunderClan camp, because Soul had convinced Blackstar that ShadowClan didn't need a medicine cat. It was great to hear that he was happy now, following the path StarClan laid out for him. This wasn't the right time to tell them that they weren't kin after all. There won't ever be a right time, Jay Feather thought. By the time the other cats had exchanged greetings, there was still no sign of Mothwing and Willowshine from RiverClan. We won't wait, Barkface decided. We've a lot to get through tonight. Maybe they'll catch up, Little Cloud meowed. And maybe Mothwing doesn't feel like trekking all the way to the moon pool just to catch up on her sleep, Jay Feather thought. She usually sends Willowshine, though. The menacing cats were beginning the last scramble up the steep slope towards the bushes that surrounded the moon pool when they heard a breathless yowl from behind them. Wait! Wait for us! Jay Feather turned and caught the scent of Mothwing and her apprentice, growing rapidly stronger as the two cats raced to catch up. Sorry, Mothwing panted as they reached the bottom of the rocks. We got held up. Petal Kid got a thorn in her eye. Poor thing, Barkface murmured. I hope you got it out. Yes, it just took a good lick, Mothwing replied. I left her to sleep in the nursery. I don't know if you've tried this, Little Cloud meowed, but I've always found Celadine good for damaged eyes. Just trickle a bit of the juice into her eye to ease the pain. Oh, thank you, Mothwing exclaimed. I didn't know that. I'll try it as soon as we get back. Willowshine, do we have any Celadine in the store? I think so, the young cat replied. There's not much left, but it should be enough. Let's get going, Barkface mewed. We're wasting moonlight.
Jayfeather crawled his way up the rocky hillside and pushed through the bushes to the rim of the hollow where the moon pool lay. You could hear the gentle plash of the waterfall and pictured the surface of the water dappled with the light of countless stars.
I've something to say,
Barkface announced as the cat settled down beside the pool.
Jayfeather, I know our leaders visited you and your clan to talk about Soul.
Jayfeather's belly clenched and he braced himself for what he thought was coming.
I want to say that it must have been a very hard decision for Firestar to make,
the old medicine cat went on.
I don't think any of us should say that it was the right or wrong thing to do.
The other medicine cats murmured their agreement. Jayfeather's ears twitched. That was the last thing he had expected to hear. He was surprised and touched by his companion's sympathy. It's in the paws of StarClan, he stammered. And it's time for us to share tongues with StarClan.
Hi, Ash. Hi, Darn.
Jayfeather heard Little Cloud raise a pad to the very edge of the water, but first I must present Flamepaw to the spirits of his warrior ancestors. Flamepaw, are you ready?
Yes.
The word came out as a squeak. Jayfeather felt Flamepaw's embarrassment mingled with his awe. Flamepaw, Little Cloud went on, slipping into the words of the old age ritual. Is it your wish to enter into the mysteries of StarClan as a medicine cat?
It is.
Now the young cat had control of his voice, though excitement still vibrated through it. Then come forward. Flamepaw padded past Jayfeather until he stood in front of his mentors. Warriors of StarClan, Little Cloud meowed. I present you with this apprentice. He has chosen the path of a medicine cat. Grant him your wisdom and insight so that he may understand your ways and heal his clan in accordance with your will. He paused, then added in a whisper, crouch down and drink from the pool. As Flamepaw obeyed, Jayfeather and the rest of the medicine cat stretched out their necks too, and lapped a few drops of the water from the moon pool. As the icy liquid trickled down his throat, Jayfeather curled up and tried to relax. Please, StarClan, he begged, show me something useful. My clan is tearing itself apart. His eyes opened and he found himself on a narrow forest path with lush ferns arching over his head on either side. Sunlight warmed his fur and dappled the grass around his paws, but he couldn't see any other cats, and when he tasted the air, all he could pick up was the scent of green growing things.
Hi, Timus.
Where are all of them? He muttered to himself, beginning to pad forward. Suddenly, he heard a rustle from the undergrowth ahead of him, and the fern fronds dipped and swayed. Jayfeather sniffed eagerly, but the scent he picked up wasn't from any of the ones he had hoped for. Flamepaw! He exclaimed as the young apprentice burst into the open and stood gazing around with wide eyes, his fur fluffed up in a mixture of excitement and fear.
Jayfeather, it's you!
He exclaimed. Where are we? Is this what's supposed to happen? Calm down, Jayfeather responded. Everything's fine. Mouse tongue, he added inwardly. I'm in his dream. What good would that do? I was hoping to meet Tiger Star, Flamepaw confessed, gazing up and down the path with bright, curious eyes. He's my kin and I've heard so much about him. I'm not sure where Tiger Star is, Jayfeather replied, careful not to tell the new apprentice about the dark forest. You should be glad to meet any warriors of StarClan. I know, but will they be glad to meet me? Flamepaw crouched down, looking very small and scared. I don't know what to say to them. Jayfeather touched the apprentice's shoulder with the tip of his tail. When you see them, you'll be fine, he promised. You just have to listen. Flamepaw gave him a doubtful look, but he rose determinedly to his paws and set off down the path. See you later, then, he meowed. Right now, I'd be happy to see any of the StarClan warriors, Jayfeather thought. Are they deliberately hiding from me? He padded down the path in the opposite direction from Flamepaw until he reached a clearing where sweet-smelling herbs grew around a small pool. He remembered finding this place before, when he had spoken to Spotted Leaf, but there was no sign of the tortoiseshell she-cat now. Bounding over to the pool and looking down into the water, Jayfeather froze with shock. Though the sun still shone, the green depths glittered with countless stars. What are you doing down there? He yowled, clawing at the grass. Come talk to me! The only answer was a thick, stifling pelt of darkness falling over him. Disoriented, he staggered out and found his claws scraping on stone instead of grass. He was awake again, back inside the moon pool. The other medicine cats around him were beginning to rise to their paws. Still frustrated and troubled by his dream, Jayfeather stood up with the other cats and climbed back up the spiral path. When they had scrambled down the rocky slope to the moorland, he found himself padding next to Little Cloud. "I think Flameball managed very well for his first time," the Shadow Clan cat meowed. "He met Nightstar, who was our leader back in the old forest." "That's good," Jayfeather murmured, not mentioning that he had seen the young apprentice in his dream. "I think he'll be a great medicine cat," Little Cloud went on. "He already knows a good number of herbs." Herbs! In his desperation to meet with StarClan, Jayfeather had forgotten about the question he had meant to ask. "I came across this herb," he began, "and I don't know what it is. Please, StarClan, don't let him wonder why I haven't asked Leafpool." "What sort of herb?" Little Cloud queried. "It has a sharp scent, and the leaves feel crinkly." Jayfeather meowed, wishing he could have told the Shadow Clan medicine cat what it looked like. Even if he had been able to see it, the shriveled stalk wouldn't have given him much of a clue to the fresh herb. It tastes cold, like frost on fur, and even the dried leaves taste fresh like grass. He added, remembering what Mousefur had told him. Little Cloud patted on thoughtfully for a few heartbeats. "It sounds like parsley to me." "Parsley? Oh! Its leaves have a very distinctive shape, like tiny shallow claws around the edge, and it tastes the same fresh or dried." "What's it used for?" Jayfeather struggled to keep his excitement out of his voice. "Not much," Little Cloud replied. "But it's good for stopping milk and nursing queens if their kits die." "Huh?" "Not much," Little Cloud replied, "but it's good for stopping milk and nursing queens if their kits die." Jayfeather stopped dead, or if their kits didn't die but were given to a different cat. His heart was pounding so hard that he thought it would burst out of his chest. All the separate scraps of knowledge that he had gathered about his birth suddenly tumbled together into a terrifying pattern. "Are you okay?" Little Cloud asked anxiously. "What? Oh, yeah, fine." Jayfeather forced his paws forward again. His mind was spinning and filling with flashes of light, and he hardly remembered to say goodbye to the other medicine cats when they reached the border of their territories. He had always been told that Squirrelflight had no milk, so Ferncloud and Daisy had nursed him and his littermates, which meant Squirrelflight wouldn't have needed to take parsley. So maybe our real mother had to eat it to hide that she'd just given birth. Jayfeather's memory carried him back to when he was a tiny kid, struggling through the snow. He had to remember. Think about the scents, he told himself. This is where the answers lie. His sense of smell had never before let down when it was important. It couldn't fail him now. There was a cat close to him, walking slowly through the snow with the scent of milk clinging to her fur. It wasn't Squirrelflight. It couldn't be Squirrelflight. Suddenly, Jayfeather took a deep breath. He knew exactly which cat's scent it was. Everything added up. Which cat could depend on Squirrelflight's loyalty, knowing she would carry out the deception for moons and moons, even if it meant lying to her own mate? Which cat had always poured out love and concern around him and his littermates? Which cat could never admit that she had borne kits? Leafpool. Leafpool is our mother. Dun dun dun! Chapter 21. The truth. The truth is out. The warrior code. It's been broken. Oh no. I ate a popcorn, but the kernel didn't go all the way down. Please! There we go. Hollyleaf blinked wearily in the misty dawn as the elders and Purdies carried Honeyfern's body out of the camp. The sun had vanished and the sky was covered with thick gray clouds. The breeze carried a tang of rain to come. All the clans stood silently watching their clanmate went watching while their clanmate went on to her burial. When the elders had disappeared through the thorn tunnel, Brambleclaw began organizing the day's patrol. Hollyleaf spotted Sorreltail padding sorrowfully towards the warrior's den, her head bowed and her tail trailing in the dust. She bounded after her, catching up to her beside the outer branches of the thorn bush. "I'm so sorry," she meowed. "I'm really gonna miss Honeyfern." "We'll all miss her." Sorreltail's voice was choked with grief. She was so gentle as a kid, and so quick to learn. She knew most of the hunting moves even before she was apprenticed. She was always lots of fun to play with, Hollyleaf told her, touching her nose to Sorreltail's shoulder. Sorreltail blinked. She enjoyed being with you and your brothers, and she was always so worried that you wouldn't get enough milk because Squirrelflight couldn't feed you. Aw. Hollyleaf began to bristle at the mention of the cat she had believed was her mother, and tried hard to make her fur lie flat again. She wouldn't think about that betrayal when it was more important to comfort Sorreltail. "It wasn't Squirrelflight's fault," the Tortoiseshell Queen went on, obviously misunderstanding what was bothering Hollyleaf. "And you were well looked after. Ferncloud and Daisy fed you. And I don't think Leafpool was ever out of the nursery, bringing them borage to make their milk come, and all the strengthening herbs she could find." "Leafpool did all that?" Hollyleaf asked. "Oh, yes, she was always fussing over you. Maybe because you were her sister's kits, or maybe because she was with you when you first came to the hollow. "I didn't know that." Hollyleaf felt a prickling in her fur. "If Leafpool was with us, she must know who our real mother is." Sorreltail nodded, then arched her back in a long stretch. "I'm going to see if I can get some sleep," she murmured. "Maybe Honeyfern will walk in my dreams." As soon as Sorreltail had disappeared into the warrior's den, Hollyleaf looked around for the medicine cat. She had vowed never to ask Squirrelflight anything more about her real parents. She didn't want to speak to the cat who had lied to her ever again, but maybe Leafpool would tell her. She spotted Leafpool talking to Firestar near the entrance to the thorn tunnel and padded across to them, hovering a couple of tail lengths away as she waited for a chance to get to the medicine cat alone. "You've been keeping vigil all night," Firestar was meowing. "You're exhausted. Why don't you go out into the forest and get some air? Stretch your legs and maybe find a quiet spot to have a sleep without any cat to interrupt you." "I shouldn't leave the clan," Leafpool protested. "Jayfeather's back from the moon pool," Firestar pointed out. "We can do without you for a little while." He stretched forward and touched noses affectionately with Leafpool. "I could make that an order." Leafpool yawned. "All right, Firestar, but I'll be back before sun-high." "Take as long as you want." Firestar dipped his head and padded away. Hollyleaf waited until Leafpool had gone out through the thorn tunnel, then followed her into the forest. The medicine cat was out of sight, but Hollyleaf tracked her by her scent until she joined her at the top of a treeless rise overlooking the lake. Leafpool was sitting with her tail wrapped around her paws, gazing out across the water. She sprang to her paws as Hollyleaf bounded up beside her. "Hollyleaf, were you looking for me?" "Yes, I wanted to ask you something." Now that the moment had come, Hollyleaf didn't feel so sure about what she was about to do. The answer would change her life forever. Was that what she wanted? "I have to know the truth." Leafpool's eyes were wary as she mewed. "Go on, then." "She knows we found something about the lie," Hollyleaf guessed, her belly lurching. "Squirrelflight must have told her what happened the day on the cliff." "Well?" Leafpool prompted. Hollyleaf took a deep breath. "Tell me what you know. All of it. I have to know the truth." Leafpool's amber eyes brimmed with sorrow. She took a pace towards Hollyleaf, sweeping her tail around as if to lay it on the younger cat's shoulder, but left the gesture unfinished. "You don't have to worry," Leafpool meowed. "I will never tell any cat, but please tell me why you did it." Hollyleaf felt as if a massive piece of fresh kill were stuck in her throat. This wasn't how she had intended her talk to go. "Did what?" she managed to choke out. Leafpool let out a long sigh, closing her eyes as if she had the nerve herself for what she was about to ask. Then she faced Hollyleaf again. "Why did you kill Ashfur?" "No!" Hollyleaf dug her claws hard into the ground. "That wasn't why she had asked. Leafpool couldn't know." She opened her jaws to reply, but the words of denial wouldn't come. "I know, Hollyleaf." Leafpool mewed gently.
When I was preparing Ashford's body for his vigil, I found a tuft of your fur caught in his claws, but I hid it away where no cat could find it. I think I wanted to hide it from myself. She paused, swallowed, then repeated, Why?
He had to die!
Fury made Hollyleaf hiss through gritted teeth. And you know why!
No, I don't.
Leafpool's eyes were genuinely mystified, and Hollyleaf realized that Squirrelflight had never told her about revealing the terrible secret to Ashfur.
He had to die because he knew!
Hollyleaf snarled.
The night, on the cliff in the storm, Squirrelflight told him that we weren't her kits. He was gonna tell the whole clans at the gathering, and I couldn't let him do that. They think we're true clan cats, forest-born like they are. I couldn't let them find out the truth. The Firestars clan was even less pure than they thought. Ashfur would have destroyed ThunderClan.
As she spoke, Leafpool's eyes grew wider and with dismay.
Oh, StarClan, no, she whispered. This is all my fault.
Hollyleaf's mind was whirling. She couldn't think beyond this moment. She only knew that the cat who held the truth in her paws was standing in front of her.
Squirrelflight told you about us, didn't she? You were there when we first came to the Hollow. You must know who our real mother is.
Leafpool faced her calmly. Yes, I know.
And you have to tell me, please!
For several heartbeats, Leafpool didn't reply. She stood blinking, her muscles tensed as she were about to leap over a vast chasm. And she spoke. I am your mother, Hollyleaf. Squirrelflight was trying to protect me. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. For a moment that lasted a heartbeat, or maybe a moon, Hollyleaf stared at her. No, it can't be. But she knew that Leafpool had spoken the truth. Whipping around, she bounded away, her paws slipping on the dead leaves so that she slid to the bottom of the rise in a tangle of legs and tail. Scrambling to her paws, she pelted towards the deepest place of the forest, as far from the hollow as she could get. She didn't know where she was going, only that she wanted to outrun the lies, and the taste of Ashfur's blood in her mouth.
It was all for nothing. I did it to save us all, but it was no use. Everything has been ruined.
The truth is out! Da 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 da. Chapter 22. Oh my god, wait, we're almost to the end already. 28 chapters? Oh my god. Now's when it real picks up. I mean, it was picked up already, but now the snowball's happening. The snowball is happening. There's not going to be a breather starting now, I'm pretty sure. Jayfeather struggled through the snow that reached up to his belly fur. Frozen lumps of it stuck between his pads, making every step painful.
Oh, thank you for the follow, Lord of Thunder!
Just ahead of him was another cat. He recognized her tabby and white pelt, and he wailed for her to come back and help him, but she never turned her head. Then the snow ground gave way beneath his paws, and he was falling. He woke in his own nest, the bedding tossed about by his thrashing limbs. Sitting up, heart still racing from his dream, he heard Leafpool scrambling about in the depths of the store. A throbbing tide of anguish came from her, so strong that for a heartbeat he thought she was shrieking out loud. Jayfeather sprang to his paws and padded over to the cave entrance. A flame of desperation burned inside him to ask the medicine cat if she really was his mother, but he couldn't ignore such a deep distress. Leafpool? He meowed. What's the matter? Leafpool backed out of the store. I told Hollyleaf something I shouldn't have, she confessed. Jayfeather understood at once. Now all the secrets were gushing out like water breaking through a dam. He raised his chin in a challenge. You told her that you're our mother, didn't you? He heard Leafpool's gasp of shock. How did you know? Or how long have you known? I didn't know until just now, but I've been putting things together, and last night everything fell into place. Squirrelflight's loyalty to the cat who gave birth to us, the vague memories that I have of that journey through the snow, the way you behaved towards the three of us, and the fact that Mousefur remembers parsley accidentally mixed in with her tansy about that time. Parsley's used to stop the milk in nursing mothers. You would have needed to take it to stop your own milk. There was a long silence after he had finished speaking, in which Jayfeather almost thought he could hear his own heartbeat. If you know so much, Leafpool mewed at last,
Then do you know what happens next?
No. Jayfeather felt a strong sensation that there was something else Leafpool wanted to say to him, but she kept silent. He thought about entering her mind to find out what it was, but he didn't quite dare. He didn't like the idea of what he might discover. You have to help your litter mates, Leafpool told him, her voice sharp and urgent. You must learn to live with this, for the sake of the clan. You've got no right to tell us what we must do. But Jayfeather did not speak the thought out loud. Part of what the medicine cat said was true. Sooner or later, they all had to find a way forward. Please, Leafpool mewed. There was a note of desperation in her voice. Find Lionblaze and Hollyleaf before anything else happens. Is there anything else that could go wrong? Jayfeather wondered, but he nodded and backed out of the den. Leafpool was scared for her kids, all three of them. Just as she had always been when trouble came to the clan. He scanned the clearing until he located Lionblaze approaching the fresh kill pile with a mouthful of prey. Jayfeather bounded over to him. Leave that and come with me, he meowed, jerking his head. We need to talk. Jayfeather could feel Lionblaze's confusion, but his brother didn't protest. He dropped his prey on the pile and padded beside him towards the camp entrance. Where's Hollyleaf? Jayfeather asked. The sense of approaching disaster loomed even closer as he realized that his new knowledge would hurt her hardest of all. The warrior code means so much to her. I have no idea, Lionblaze replied. I think she left camp, but I haven't seen her since the end of the vigil. We have to find her. Jayfeather mewed as they emerged from the tunnel into the forest. She's found out something that could upset her. What? I'll tell you when we find Hollyleaf. Jayfeather lifted his head to taste the air, searching for a trace of their sister's scent. Tell me now, Lionblaze insisted. Haven't there been enough secrets? Even the three of us hardly seem to talk anymore. Jayfeather turned to face him. Leafpool is our mother. He sensed shock like a bolt of lightning flashing through his brother. I don't believe it, Lionblaze gasped. She's a medicine cat. It's impossible. It's impossible. You'd better start believing it, Jayfeather mewed bleakly. She told me so herself, and we have to decide what we're going to do about it. Dun, dun, dun. After a long search through the forest, trying to follow confusing traces of their sister's scent, they discovered Hollyleaf at the top of the mossy bank that sloped down towards the lake. Jayfeather sensed her tension as soon as he bounded up to her. Hollyleaf, we need to talk, he meowed. There's nothing to discuss. Hollyleaf's voice was distant. Jayfeather could tell that she hadn't turned to face him and Lionblaze. Instead, she was gazing across the water as if the answers were hidden among the waves. We have to find out who our real father is, and that will mean the end of all the secrets. What do you mean? Lionblaze asked, padding up to join them. No cat knows yet who killed Ashfur, not unless Soul confesses. That's one secret the clan won't let rest. Too bad. Hollyleaf's voice was dismissive, though Jayfeather detected a new surge of tension within her. There are more important secrets than that. We must know who our father is. You're right, Jayfeather agreed, curiosity prickling in every hair on his pelt. But it's not going to be that easy to figuring it out on our own. Did you ask Leafpool? No, and I don't think she'd tell us if we did. Jayfeather realized that she was right. He couldn't imagine that Leafpool would want to tell the truth about their father now, when she had kept the secret for so many moons. Once the rest of the clan found out what she had done, they would find out, because Jayfeather couldn't see how the secret could be contained any longer. Her life would be ruined. She wouldn't want that to happen to another cat as well. Wait a moment, Lionblaze meowed. Do we really want to do this? What do you mean, Mousebrain? Hollyleaf hissed. Are you going to live the rest of your life never knowing who fathered you? Jayfeather heard her claws tearing at the moss. But because I'm not. Just think at what you're saying. Lionblaze sat down beside Jayfeather. We never wanted the secret to come out, and now that Ashfur's dead, it doesn't have to. Leafpool won't tell any cat the truth. I want to know! Hollyleaf's tail lashed through the dead leaves that covered the ground. But why? Lionblaze argued. If we keep quiet, everything will go back to how it was before. If you believe that, you'll believe anything, Jayfeather thought, but he said nothing. Haven't you realized what this means? Lionblaze went on, his voice growing excited. Leafpool's our mother, and Firestar's her father. We're still part of the prophecy. He is right. Chapter 23.
scrolling.
Lineblaze slid out of the camp through the dirt place tunnel and skirted the rim of the hollow until he came to the place where he and his littermates had nearly been buried alive on the night of the storm. The grass was still blackened, and the debris from the charred branches was scattered around. Lineblaze shuddered as he remembered the leaping flames and the mad glare in Ashfur's eyes. Above his head, the moon floated in the indigo sky, waxing towards full and surrounded by the frosty glitter of stars. No clouds blurred out their light. Does that mean you approve of what I'm doing, StarClan? Lineblaze silently addressed his warrior ancestors. He had made this plan as soon as he realized that he and his littermates were still part of the prophecy, but it had taken him another day to decide to put it to action. Whatever you think, I have to do this. Looking down into the hollow, he could see the thorn bush where Sol was a prisoner, and Birchfall crouched on watch just beyond the outer branches. The thick, crisscrossing growth of the thorn hid Sol from Lineblaze's sight, but Sol's scent drifted up to him right as he tasted the air. Right, Lineblaze whispered. Let's go. Paw step by paw step, he crept down the cliff face. Oh my goodness, why can't I read all of a sudden? My mother. Tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. 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 Paw step by paw step, he crept down the cliff face, testing each foothold before he dared put his weight on it. He wasn't just afraid of falling. If he dislodged a stone or slipped and had to scramble to save himself, he would alert Birchfall. He froze once as he brushed against a straggling bush growing from a crack, and once when a shower of grit spurted up from under his paws and pattered down into camp. Birchfall didn't move. Snoozing on watch? Lineblaze wondered. Moons seemed to have passed before he leaped down the last fox length to land neatly on the ground beside the bush. His legs trembled. With a swift glance towards the slumbering shape of Birchfall, he crawled underneath the branches of the thorn bush. In the dim light that filtered through the twigs, he saw Sol curled up in a mossy nest, his tail wrapped over his nose and his sides heaving with the rhythmic breathing of sleep. Lineblaze crept over to him and prodded his shoulder. Sol's eyes flew open, and for a heartbeat Lineblaze thought he saw surprise flicker in their amber depths. His jaw opened, but Lineblaze slapped his tail over the loner's muzzle before he could utter a sound. Quiet! Sol nodded, and Lineblaze took his tail away. I'm sorry, Lineblaze. For a moment I thought you were that snake. Sol was composed once more, his hushed voice barely reaching Lineblaze's ears. What can I do for you? I need to talk to you. Now that Lineblaze has succeeded in coming face to face with his clan's prisoner, it was harder than he had expected to say what he had to say. I found out that my mother isn't who I thought she was, and I need to figure out if it affects the prophecy. Good. Sol mewed softly. He sat up and began to groom moss out of his fur. You can start by helping me get out of here. I can't do that. Lineblaze only just remembered to keep his voice down. Of course you can. You must have climbed down the cliff to get here without Birchfall seeing you. You can show me the way to get back up. I didn't kill Ashfur. You know I didn't. As far as ThunderClan is concerned, you're the only cat it could have been, Lineblaze retorted. He wasn't sure what he thought himself. He couldn't forget how Sol had promised to help him fulfill the prophecy, and how much he needed that help now. But he also shrank from betraying his clan by letting the loner escape. Hi, Peterine. Why should I help you if you won't help me? Sol gave Lineblaze a long look from glowing amber eyes, then calmly licked one paw and started to wash his face. Crystal log! Lineblaze stared at him in frustration. I can't make him talk, but I can't show him the way out either. Hold on, I have to take off my Snuggie. It's so hot in here. Okay, he muttered. I'm leaving, but I can't help you escape.
It would cause too much trouble.
For you?
Soul queried.
For my clan!
Lineblaze hissed. It was too easy to imagine what the other clan leaders would think when they heard Soul was on the loose. They'd blame ThunderClan, that was for sure. He flattened himself to the ground so that he could wriggle out of the thorn branches.
Wait, don't you want to know who your father is?
Lineblaze stopped and looked back over his shoulder. You know that?
Of course.
Soul pressed his paw over one ear. So, who is he? Lineblaze asked, his belly churning. Soul's eyes glinted with amusement.
Nothing for nothing, Lineblaze. I'll tell you the truth when you get me out of here.
And how do I know I can trust you? The words came out louder than Lineblaze had intended. He froze as a scuffling sound came from outside the den. Soul? Birchfall called. Are you okay? Soul paused, his whiskers twitching. Ants crawled through Lineblaze's pelt as he held his breath. And he held his breath as he waited to be discovered. Firestar will strip my pelt and often throw a fit. Throw it for the crows. Soul? Birchfall's voice came again, sounding more anxious.
I'm fine, Birchfall,
the loner replied.
Just talking to myself.
Okay, good night.
Candy!
Lineblaze relaxed as he heard Birchfall settling down again, though his pelt still felt hot with tension.
How do you know you can trust me?
Soul went on. He sounded amused.
You don't. But knowledge is power, Lineblaze, and right now I have more knowledge than any of the clan cats.
All right. Lineblaze mewed slowly. I'll show you how to get out, but you must promise to tell me about my father and advise me about the prophecy. Soul dipped his head.
You have my word.
Whatever that's worth. Okay, follow me, Lineblaze whispered. Put your paws where I put mine. It's a tricky climb, but it'll be 10 times harder because we mustn't be spotted. He pushed his way out through the thorns with Soul hard on his paws.
Ooh. Hi, Dickie!
Where the heck was I? The cliff seemed to stretch above his head forever, and Lineblaze couldn't believe that no cat would see them splayed out against the rock in the bright moonlight. But no accusing yowls came from the clearing, and at last he pulled himself up to the cliff top and turned to wait for Soul to join him. The loner huffed out a breath as he hauled himself over the rim of the hollow, then gestured with his tail for Lineblaze to follow him away from the edge. He halted a few fox lengths away. Well, Lineblaze demanded, you're free. What about your part of the bargain?
Not here, Soul replied. It's too dangerous. Besides, if you stay away too long, some cat might notice you're missing. You should get back to the warrior's den.
But you promised!
And I'll keep that promise.
Soul flicked his ears in the direction of Shadow Clan territory.
I'll go to that old two-leg nest beyond the Shadow Clan border and wait for you there. Come with your litter mates as soon as you can.
Okay. Lineblaze's belly churned with frustration. But you better be there. Soul flicked his tail dismissively.
I will be.
Churning, he bounded off towards the Shadow Clan border. Lineblaze watched him until the undergrowth hid his blotched pelt from sight. Then he slipped down to the thorn barrier and back into camp the same way he had left it. He hoped no cat would ask him why it had taken him so long to make his dirt. I did the right thing, he argued with himself. Halilief said we have to find out who our father is. And even more importantly, Soul is the only cat who can help us fulfill the prophecy. Firestar! Firestar! Birchfall's yowl dragged Lineblaze from a deep sleep. All around him in the warrior's den, his clanmates were rousing. Is there an attack? Brightheart's fur bristled. Birchfall sounds terrified. She scrambled out of her nest and pushed her way out into the open, with Cloudtail just beside her. Firestar! Birchfall's screech sounded right outside the den.
What's gotten into him?
Dustpelt grumbled, rising to his paws and shaking moss out of his fur.
Can a cat get a decent night's sleep around here?
More warriors were shouldering their way out, loudly demanding what was going on. Lineblaze knew exactly what was bothering Birchfall, but he realized he had to seem just as concerned as every cat. He sprang up and slid out through the branches into the gray dawn light. Shadows still lay deep around the edges of the clearing, and the ground was dusted with frost. Firestar was bounding down the tumbled rocks. Birchfall raced across the clearing to meet him at the bottom.
Firestar!
The young warrior gasped.
Soul has escaped!
Firestar's eyes flicked up. With Birchfall panting behind him, he raced over to the thorn bush and thrust his head inside. More of the ThunderClan cats followed him, and Lionblaze crowded up with them, making sure that he left his fresh scent at the bottom of the cliff where he and Soul had begun their climb. Is he really gone? Brambleclaw asked, rushing up to join his leader as Firestar backed away from the bush. Firestar nodded.
Hey, there are marks on that cliff!
Hazeltail stretched up with her paws to point at a spot where a couple of pebbles had been dislodged.
Soul must have escaped this way.
Good riddance, if you ask me. Cloudtail growled, giving a single lash of his tail. It's not like we could keep him here forever. There was a murmur of agreement. Lionblaze saw relief in the eyes of more than one cat. You're not going to track him down, are you, Firestar? Sandstorm asked. He's caused us enough trouble, and we could never have punished him for killing Ashfur.
He's obviously guilty, Spiderleg put in. He wouldn't have risked his neck climbing the cliff to escape otherwise.
That's true. Thornclaw meowed as Firestar looked thoughtful. He must have been scared of what we would do to him. We sure taught him a lesson. Firestar took a couple of paces away from Soul's den and gazed at the cats who stood around him. You're right, he murmured at last. Let's hope that Soul has learned that clans can't be messed around with and doesn't try to cross any more bold borders. Brambleclaw, we'll double the patrols for now until we're sure he's not still in the territory. Sure, Firestar, the deputy meowed with a brisk nod. What will you tell the other clans? Graystripe asked, a worried look in his amber eyes. If we say he escaped, they'll think we were too weak to hold on to him, and they might blame us for letting him out to cause more trouble. Firestar twitched his ears. I'll tell them we banished him from our territories and made him promise never to set paw here again. But that's not true. Sandstorm looked uneasy. Should we really be lying to the other clans? Like they always tell us the truth, Cloudtail snapped. I think Sandstorm's right, Brightheart put in, with a sharp glance at her mate. What if Soul is still around? What would the other clans think of us then? Firestar hesitated, his gaze fixed on his paws, then raised his head again. We'll do as I say. It's for the sake of ThunderClan, he meowed. We need to show that we're strong and committed to the warrior code, and that we deal with our armed clan's affairs in our own way, and we'll make sure that Soul isn't still hanging around, he finished. As the cats began to move away, and Brambleclaw began to organize the patrols, Lionblaze spotted Hollyleaf standing at the edge of the clearing. Her eyes were like green flames, but it was impossible to tell what she was looking at. Slipping between Sandstorm and Hazeltail, he patted to her side. Hey, I have to tell you something, he mewed softly. Hollyleaf didn't seem to hear him. He escaped, she hissed, her claws flexing in and out. Lionblaze couldn't tell if she sounded glad or sorry. He didn't dare tell her what had really happened with so many of his clanmates close by. Where's Jayfeather? He asked. Hollyleaf's ears flinched. How should I know? I'll find him, Lionblaze meowed. Go into the forest and meet us by the training clearing. Don't argue, he added as Hollyleaf opened her jaws. Just do it. It's important. His sister rolled her eyes, but she set off towards the camp entrance, staying in the shadows. Once he was sure she was on her way, Lionblaze headed for the medicine cat's den, but before he reached it, Jayfeather emerged from the nursery. Lionblaze bounded over to him. What's all this yowling about? Jayfeather demanded. Soul has escaped. Has he? Jayfeather's eyes stretched wide with surprise. Then the young medicine cat sniffed. How convenient. He be knowin'. We have to talk, Lionblaze muttered, glancing back to where his clanmates were splitting up into patrols. Come with me into the forest. We're meeting Hollyleaf beside the training clearing. To his relief, Jayfeather didn't argue. I'll tell Leafpool I'm going to look for Yarrow. Running short, and Purdy's pads are still giving him trouble. He trotted off towards his den. Lionblaze didn't wait for him. It was best if all three of them left the camp separately. Hating the need for deception, he tagged
on to the end of a patrol that was just leaving, with Sandstorm at its head. Once out into the forest, he dropped back. In case any cat had spotted him, he pretended to have picked up a thorn in his pad. As soon as the patrol had vanished, he raced for the training clearing. Hollyleaf was crouched in the hollow under a tree root. "Well?" she demanded as Lion Blaze approached. "Let's wait for Jayfeather." Not many heartbeats had passed before Lion Blaze heard a rustling in the undergrowth and picked up his brother's scent. Jayfeather shouldered his way out of the long grass and joined them. "Now will you tell us what this is all about?" Hollyleaf meowed. As briefly as he could, Lion Blaze had told them how he had managed to get into Soul's den and talk with him, and how he had shown him the way up the cliff. "He's gone to hide in the old two-leg nest where he stayed before," he finished. "We have to go there so he can tell us who our father is." "Have you got bees in your brain?" Hollyleaf growled with a lash of her tail. "You let a ThunderClan prisoner escape? That's completely against the warrior code. What do you think Firestar will do if he ever finds out?" "There's no reason why he should find out," Lion Blaze replied steadily. "I thought you were the one who wanted to find out the truth about our father. Now we can. Are you coming with me or not?" Jayfeather looked uneasy, but he nodded. "We'll come." He nudged Hollyleaf. "There's no sense in complaining about it. You know we've got no choice. We can't live with only half the truth, and this looks like our only chance of finding out."
Oh, the pieces, they're all coming together.
The sun had risen over the treetops by the time they reached the end of ShadowClan territory and stuck out into the unknown forest. It was so long since they had been there that Lion Blaze wasn't sure of the way, but Soul's scent trail led him onward. It looks as if he headed straight to the two-leg nest, so maybe he does mean to keep his part of the deal. Eventually, the crumbling walls of the old two-leg nest came into sight, hardly visible among the tall clumps of seeding willow herb, bracken, and thistles. Soul's scent was strong and fresh. Lion Blaze led the way up to the entrance and peered inside. Weeds sprouted through the cracks in the stone floor, and cobwebs stretched across the corners. "Soul?" he called. "Are you there?" "Greetings." The voice came from above Lion Blaze's head. He looked up to see Soul sitting on the top of one of the walls, half hidden by the branches of a holly bush stretching in from the outside. The loner rose to his paws and jumped down beside Lion Blaze and his littermates. "Greetings," he repeated. "I see you came." "We came to find out the truth." Hollyleaf shouldered her way past Lion Blaze. "Tell us what you know." Soul blinked. "It won't help you, you know, as long as you're part of the prophecy. Why does it matter who your father is?" "It matters," Hollyleaf growled. "Wait." Lion Blaze stepped forward to stand alongside his sister. "I agree with Soul. I'd like to know the truth about my father, but it's the prophecy that's important." "But we need to know," Jayfeather argued. "One name. That's all we want." A gleam of cold amusement lit in Soul's eyes. Lion Blaze knew he was enjoying the power he held over them. Suddenly, he wasn't sure that Soul knew anything about their father. Perhaps he was just taunting them, knowing they couldn't take him back to the clan. But he had known who they were from the start, and had offered to help. "This is our chance to fulfill the prophecy," Lion Blaze mewed desperately, turning to his littermates. "Soul knows so much. He even knew where the sun was going to vanish." Neither of his littermates responded. Jayfeather just looked stubborn, while Hollyleaf had tensed her muscles as if she were about to pounce on Soul and force him to tell the truth. "No! If she lays a claw on him, he'll never tell us." Hold on 1 second, guys. I have to go check on my cat, guys. She's got the runs, and she won't let my roommate clean her butt, so I have to go clean her butt. So I'll be right back. In the meantime, if anyone is here and able to type, you should guess who their father is. I think that'd be really funny. Okay, bye.
I'm back.
I'm not invested enough to know.
Hi. That's fair. I bet you wouldn't know any of the names. Do you know any names, Phil? Knowledgeable, perhaps. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know. Or informed enough to know? People who have cats. My kitty has like really bad diarrhea. I think she went into our sink and licked up a bunch of ranch off a plate in the night, and so now she has like really bad runs. And she's been pooing all day, and she gets it in her butt fur because she has long fur, and she steps in it because she's unsure how to handle it, and it gets in her toe pads. But anyways, enough about that part. I need something to give her to eat, but I'm not sure what to give her. Like, usually I'll give like salt-free tuna, but I'm wondering if I should get like pumpkin as well.
What to be cat? Bland meals, cooked white rice or pasta. Ah.
What to do and what not to do.
What is diarrhea? Thanks. Oh! So rice actually looks like it's rice water. Okay.
Yeah. She's still hungry. She's still eating. She's still full of energy.
She's not like lethargic or anything. Rice water. The liquid allowed to cool. Save the cooked right for later use. Once cooled, give it to your cat as often as they will consume it. Pet to delight. People can finally withhold food. Bland diet option. Plain boiled, boneless, skinless chicken and rice. Chicken or turkey baby food. Oh, baby food. So maybe not tuna. I can get canned chicken, I guess. A mixture of rice and chicken. And the milk. Speaking of baby food, I know I still have to do my baby food stream. I'm waiting, well, before I was waiting for a sale, and then I was in trouble with money, so I was like, oh, maybe buying a bunch of baby food isn't in my top priority. But I want to do it still extremely badly. And at my store, they're starting to stock new types of baby food, which is very exciting, so I can try even more. All right. Try this colorful trick. What? Whose poop is whose? Give crayons? Oh my god. Shave. How to feed your pets crayons? Using a veggie peeler, make small shavings of the crayon for different pets. This is to figure out which poo is which cat's poo. Make a small amount of these shavings into a small amount of wet food for each pet. You can also hide them in pill pocket or pill paste. A large marshmallow? A meatball of bread or cheese. It's called the Preventive Vet. I'm definitely not gonna feed my pet crayons. Sounds really dumb. I guess technically they would be food safe because babies eat crayons. And that's like, they gotta make sure babies can eat crayons. But still. Alright. Alright, I'm gonna keep reading now. So I can go and pick up some chicken. Alright, where were we? Soul's amber gaze traveled slowly over Hollyleaf. Her bristling hostility didn't ruffle a single hair on his pelt. Think about what I can offer you, he meowed softly. So much more than merely knowing your ancestors. Real power that takes much more than that. Listen to me, and I'll teach you how to truly hold the power of the stars in your paws.
Hollyleaf let out a furious hiss and crouched to spring. No! Lineblaze yowled. He leaped on his sister, gripped her by the scruff, and dragged her outside, ignoring the flailing paws and her screeches of outrage. Are you mouse-brained? He demanded, releasing her among the dead break-in outside. If you make Soul angry, he'll never help us. Why do we need him? Jayfeather padded out to join them. His voice was calm, his head tilted to one side. The prophecy doesn't say anything about needing help. How can Soul be more powerful than we are? We don't have the power of the stars yet, do we? Lineblaze's belly churned as he tried to make his littermates understand. Let him teach us what he knows. What harm can it do? And then he'll tell us who our father is. Why don't they just find out both? Get the father knowledge and then do the rest. Why? Frustrated, he realized that there had been no point in coming to the two-leg nest. Neither Hollyleaf nor Jayfeather was prepared to talk sensibly with Soul. They probably believed he killed Ashfur, like the rest of the clan. They might as well go back to the Hollow. Ugh. He looked back at the entrance to the nest to see Soul standing there. His glowing amber eyes swept across them.
You're not ready to listen to me yet,
he mewed.
When you are, come again. I'll be here, waiting for you.
Chapter 24! 4 more chapters. I love scrolling for like 30 seconds. Okay. Hollyleaf's pelt prickled with frustration as she and her brothers headed back towards their own territory. They had been so close to discovering who their father was, but Soul had enjoyed holding his knowledge out of their reach, like a juicy bit of prey that he meant to keep for himself. I could have made him tell us if Lineblaze hadn't interfered. She was so angry that she was hardly aware of her surroundings. Suddenly, Jayfeather nudged her hard into the side, nearly knocking her off her paws. What? She began. Lineblaze slapped his tail over her mouth. Shadow Clan! He hissed. Hide! All three cats dived for cover into a bramble thicket. Hollyleaf spat in annoyance as a thorn pierced one of her pads, and she tried to lick it out as Shadow Clan scent wreathed around her. Ivytail, Smokefoot, and Owlpaw, Lineblaze reported, peering out through the bramble tendrils. They're patrolling the border. I hope they didn't send us. No challenging yowls came from the patrol, and the scents gradually died away, leaving only the smell of the border markers. I guess it's safe to come out now. Lineblaze mewed after a few heartbeats. Let's get back into our own territory as quickly as we can. He took the lead, racing over the rough grass, weaving his way around hazel thickets and clumps of fern, until they flashed past their own border markers and drew to a panting halt several fox lynx into ThunderClan territory. We better hunt on our way back, he told them. That way we can pretend we went out to restock the fresh kill pile. Jayfeather nodded, and I'll look for Yarrow. If I come back empty-pawed, Leafpool will want to know why. Though she did as Lineblaze suggested, padding softly through the undergrowth with her ears pricked and her jaws gaping for the first scent of prey, Hollyleaf's pelt crawled with resentments. We shouldn't have to lie and deceive like this. Why can't we be proud of what we can do? While stalking a squirrel, she thought about how she could make Soul tell them the name of their father. I'd do anything. Anything, she thought fiercely. She remembered how easily her jaws had met in Ashfur's throat. No, don't think of that. Ashfur had to die because he would have ruined everything. He's not important now. We're the ones who matter. Hollyleaf's claws tore at the mossy ground under her paws. Alerted, the squirrel started up and shot to safety in the nearest tree. House down, Hollyleaf spat. What's the matter with you? Lineblaze asked, patting up with a blackbird in his jaws. Do you expect the prey to come and throw itself into your claws? Hollyleaf shrugged and turned away. When our father learns who we are, he'll be so proud of us. Maybe he doesn't even know about us. Maybe he's always wanted kits, and now he has 3 warriors to be his kin for the rest of his life. Closer to camp, she managed to catch a mouse, though she had to admit to herself that it looked ready to die of old age and hadn't even tried to run. Prey was scarce, and by the time they reached the stone hollow, she and Lionblaze hadn't caught anything else. But Jayfeather had found a clump of yarrow and was now padding along with a bunch of herbs in his jaws. When Hollyleaf pushed her way into the clearing, followed by her littermate, she spotted Spiderleg, Birchfall, and Hazeltail clustered together near the fresh kill pile. I don't think Soul's gone, she heard Birchfall meow as she padded across with her prey. He's lurking about somewhere. Hazeltail shivered. I hope not. I knew all along we should have never brought him back. Spiderleg shrugged. He can't do any more harm. Let him go where he likes. And kill more cats? Hazeltail's neck fur rose. That's mouse-brained. If he's here, our patrols will find him, Birchfall reassured her, touching her shoulder with his tail. And Firestar. He was interrupted by a call from Dustpelt, who came bounding over from the barrier around the snake hole. I'm alerting every cat, the brown tabby warrior meowed. That mouse with the death berries hasn't been touched. The snake must still be around. He dashed off to warn Brambleclaw and his patrol, who had just appeared through the tunnel. A sense of power thrilled through Hollyleaf from ears to tail tip. ThunderClan had never felt so alive. Every cat was working together to face the threats that surrounded them. There was nothing they couldn't do. And I could do anything too, if I could lead them. Hollyleaf? The black she-cat startled as Leafpool spoke behind her. Dropping her prey on the fresh kill pile, she spun around to see the medicine cat with Squirrelflight at her side. We need to talk, Squirrelflight mewed. Hollyleaf stared at Leafpool, her heart suddenly thundering in her chest. Is she gonna tell the others what I did? Then Leafpool gave a tiny shake of her head, and Hollyleaf relaxed. What do you want to say to us? Lionblaze asked. He had come up to deposit his prey in time to hear what Squirrelflight had said. Yes, what have we got to talk about? Jayfeather added, his challenging tone muffled by his mouthful of yarrow stems. Not here, Leafpool murmured with a glance at the cats close by. Come with us into the forest. Hollyleaf hesitated, exchanging a glance with Lionblaze. He seemed to be waiting for her to decide. And she nodded. Okay, we'll talk to you. When Jayfeather had deposited the yarrow in the medicine cat's den, Squirrelflight led the way into the forest as far as the huge oak tree with moss-covered roots. Well, Jayfeather demanded, an edge to his tone. What's all this about? I think if the chat's empty, then he summarizes what Snigglefritz says. Like, he summarizes what he says. Like, oh, Pride got jump catch. And you gotta play Outer Wild. Stuff like that. Squirrelflight and Leafpool gave the three littermates a long look. Hollyleaf realized that although they were such different cats, the expression in their eyes was the same. She didn't want to recognize it. She didn't want to admit that it was love. Finally, Squirrelflight took a deep breath. Leafpool is your mother, she began, but I want to say that I could have loved you more if I had given birth. I couldn't have loved you more if I had given birth to you myself. We raised you together, and surely that's what matters. You raised us to believe in a lie, Hollyleaf hissed, not giving her brothers a chance to respond. We have nothing to say to either of you. Ignoring the shocked looks on Lionblaze's and Jayfeather's faces, she added, Come on, there are no mothers here. A mother would love her kids enough to tell them the truth. She stood for a moment longer, savoring the anguish her rejection had called up in the two she-cats, then whipped around and began stalking back to the camp. Hollyleaf, wait! Lionblaze called. Hollyleaf glanced over her shoulder. Fury surged through her as she bared her teeth in a snarl. Come on! Lionblaze bounded after her, followed a heartbeat later by Jayfeather. This is mouse-brained, he protested. We could at least talk. They might be prepared to tell us things we need to know. Like the name of our father? Hollyleaf snapped, not breaking stride. No, there's no point in asking them. We'd only get more lies. She lashed her tail, trying hard to dismiss Squirrelflight and Leafpool from her mind. Soul will tell us, she declared. Hollyleaf is mad. Mad. Bring the moss over here. Hollyleaf directed. White Wing's kits will come soon, and she needs a really comfortable nest. Since the disastrous meeting with Soul the day before, she had struggled to put her sense of betrayal out of her mind and concentrate on her clan duties. But she couldn't manage it. How could she make herself a good warrior when she knew she should never have been born at all? Every cat knew that the medicine cats weren't allowed to have kits. She and her litter mates were nothing more than a mistake. One that Leafpool had been too ashamed to own up to. Maybe their real father would feel differently. The nursery seemed full of queens and wriggling kits as Foxpaw and Icepaw staggered through the entrance with huge balls of moss. White Wing was curled up nearby. Thanks, Hollyleaf, she mewed. You'll make a great mentor when you have an apprentice of your own. I hope so, Hollyleaf replied. How could I have an apprentice? How could I teach a young cat about the warrior code, knowing what I know? She was helping the two apprentices to spread out the moss when she was startled by a sudden yowl of alarm in the clearing. Before she could do more than look up, Rose Kit shot into the nursery with every hair on her pelt fluffed up. It's Shadow Clan, she squealed. Shadow Clan cats are in the camp. While Daisy reached out to comfort the terrified Kit, Hollyleaf thrust her way outside, her claws bared to fight off an attack, but when she was in the open, she relaxed. Only 3 cats were entering the camp, flanked by Spiderleg and Mouse Whisker, Russet Fur, Oak Fur, and Ivy Tail. Firestar was already crossing the clearing to meet them, his flame-colored pelt gleaming in the scarlet light of the setting sun, while the rest of the clan gathered behind him. Hollyleaf padded over to join Lion Blaze and Jayfeather. What's all this about? She whispered. More trouble about Soul? Lion Blaze shook his head. I have no idea. Greetings. Firestar dipped his head to the patrol. Soul has gone. We're not here about Soul, Russet Fur informed him curtly. 3 of your cats were spotted near Shadow Clan border yesterday, well outside your territory. What were they doing? Foxdown, Jayfeather muttered, while Hollyleaf felt her belt beginning to bristle. If Firestar finds out what we were doing, we're crow food. 3 ThunderClan cats? Firestar asked. Are you sure? We know ThunderClan scent when we can smell it, Russet Fur reported, and Ivytail got a good look at them. Ivytail, point them out. The ShadowClan she-cat stepped forward and swept her tail to point at Hollyleaf, Lion Blaze, and Jayfeather. Those 3. A gasp went up from the other ThunderClan cats. Hollyleaf faced them defiantly. We weren't bothering ShadowClan. Why do they have to make trouble? Hollyleaf gave the 3 littermates a thoughtful glance. Hollyleaf felt her fur grow uncomfortably hot, and she tried not to twitch. Then the ThunderClan leader turned back to the ShadowClan patrol. I'm sure my warriors had a very good reason to be there, he mewed. You should know that a medicine cat is hardly likely to be part of an invading patrol. Have you considered that they might have been looking for herbs? All 3 cats nodded. Jayfeather added, Yarrow, as if daring the ShadowClan cats to contradict him. Herbs. Russet Fur hissed the word just loud enough to be heard. Clearly she didn't believe it, but she wasn't prepared to accuse the ThunderClan cats of lying. I apologize that they strayed so close to your border. Firestar continued. It won't happen again. Wait, did they say? Near the ShadowClan border. They didn't even get caught in the ShadowClan border. It was near the ShadowClan border. Hello? See that it doesn't, Russet Fur retorted. Turning, she gathered her patrol together with a flick of her tail and headed towards the thorn tunnel. Spiderleg and Mouse Whisker followed to escort them out of their territory. At the camp entrance, Russet Fur glanced back. Firestar, I hope you get your clan under control again soon, she mewed, and vanished into the tunnel before any cat could reply. Yikes. Hollyleaf knew that her clanmates were staring at her and her brothers as Firestar stalked across the clearing to confront them. She forced herself to meet his searing green gaze. Whatever you were doing, I don't want to know. His voice was tight with tension. Just don't do it again. Do you think I haven't got a good enough do you think I haven't got enough to deal with right now? What about us? Hollyleaf thought resentfully. You have no idea what we're going through.
Sorry, Firestar. Lion Blaze mewed. Firestar let out a sigh before bounding off to join Sandstorm, Graystripe, and the other cats around the fresh kill pile. Once he was out of earshot, Hollyleaf turned to her brothers. We'll have to... She broke off at a warning touch on his shoulder from Lion Blaze's tail. He glanced around to see Brambleclaw padding up. Oh, great. The deputy halted and raked all three cats with a cold yellow gaze. Are you going to tell me what you were doing? Hollyleaf clamped her jaws shut and stared mutinously at the tabby warrior. Beside her, Lion Blaze and Jayfeather were silent too. I don't know what's gotten into you lately, Brambleclaw sighed. You're all... Hey, Brambleclaw! Dustpelt interrupted from outside the warrior's den. I'm leading the evening patrol. What cats do you want to go with me? I have to go. Brambleclaw mewed to Hollyleaf and her litter mates. Just try to keep out of trouble, okay? Hollyleaf watched him go, then drew her brothers into a tight huddle. We'll go back to Seoul tomorrow. I don't care what ShadowClan thinks. We have to know the truth. Lion Blaze was gazing wearily at her, as if he was wondering whether she would lose her temper with Soul again, but Jayfeather just looked thoughtful. At last he nodded. I agree. This time he's got to talk to us, and if he refuses, we'll make him. The prophecy belongs to us, remember, not him. Chapter 25. 3 more chapters! What the? You'll get caught by Border Patrol even if you're not on their side of the border if they see you being suspicious. That's true. Oh my god, guys, we're so close. Sunhigh had come and gone by the time Hollyleaf and her brothers were able to slip away and head for the old two-leg nest. Clouds had gathered during the night, and by the time they reached the border of their own territory, rain was hissing down steadily. Once they had crossed the border, Lion Blaze led them by a roundabout route through the spindly trees, keeping as far away as possible from the ShadowClan border. All three cats stayed alert for any sign of a ShadowClan patrol. There'll be real trouble if we're caught. There'll be real trouble if we're caught this time, Hollyleaf thought. When they reached the old two-leg nest, Soul was sitting in the entrance as if he had been expecting them. Greetings, he meowed, rising to his paws as the three cats picked their way among the dripping brambles to reach the nest. I thought you would come today. Let's get this straight. Hollyleaf drew ahead of the others. We don't want any more arguments. Will you let us help? We'll let you help us fulfill the prophecy, as long as you tell us the name of our father. Soul's eyes glowed as he gazed at her, and Hollyleaf shivered. Once she had felt as if she could spend her whole life looking into this cat's eyes and hearing his voice. Even though she knew how dangerous he was, she still wasn't quite free from the snare of his charm. Did she have a crush on him at some point? Oh my god. Shall we go inside? Soul offered, as if this was nothing more than a friendly visit. Hollyleaf and the others followed him into the damp interior and shook the raindrops from their pelts before finding a place to crouch on the cracked stones. You might need to find a new place to stay, Hollyleaf warned the loner. ShadowClan sent a patrol to report us to Firestar for being outside our territory. What? Soul's fur began to bristle. Blackstar dared to do that? Is he allowed to dictate where cats go outside his own borders? Well, he thinks he is, Jayfeather muttered. You are doing nothing wrong, Soul declared, his fur fluffing up even more and his amber eyes burning. Blackstar is using this as a way to humiliate ThunderClan. I'm not sure. Lion Blaze was looking uneasy. I think Blackstar is just being a bit overly keen to prove that he's keeping the warrior code again. Soul gave him a snort of contempt. The warrior code. Belief in StarClan. I can't understand why you cats think all of that is so important. Hollyleaf's belly lurched. No! The warrior cat code matters more than anything! But she knew that she had to stay calm. If they quarreled with Soul, they would lose the chance of discovering who their father was. I know so much more than StarClan does, Soul continued. Did they tell you that the sun would vanish? You know very well that they didn't. Doesn't that make me more powerful than your warrior ancestors? And if I'm so powerful without a prophecy, then the powers you three share must be magnificent. Lion Blaze's eyes glowed, and Jayfeather was unconsciously flexing his claws in and out. Hollyleaf had to make an effort not to be enthralled by Soul's voice.
So far, he's given us nothing, she reminded herself. His words are nothing but mist and sunshine, impossible to hold down. That's all very well, she snapped, but what do we have to do?
Shadow Clan cats are worthless, Soul went on. They have no right to their territory, and if they are left alone, they'll soon be invading yours. You need to fake evidence that Shadow Clan is You need to fake evidence that Shadow Clan is stealing Thunder Clan prey, so that your clan later can launch an attack on them. Once you have Shadow Clan's territory, you can invade River Clan and Wind Clan.
Excuse me? He glanced around, lowering his voice to a deep, vibrating purr as he continued.
That's what absolute power is, controlling every cat in the territories by the lake.
Hollyleaf stared at Soul, feeling her paws tingle. Was this really what they had to do to gain power? Fight against every cat in the rival clans? She tried to imagine Firestar allowing that to happen and couldn't. I don't think, she began uncertainly. But Soul wasn't listening to her. He padded off into the far corner of the den and hauled a rabbit out of the shadows. As he dropped it in front of her, Hollyleaf picked up the scent of Shadow Clan mingled with the smell of fresh kill.
I caught this in Shadow Clan territory and rubbed it on the scent markers,
Soul explained.
You can take it back to camp with you and tell your clan that you chased off a Shadow Clan patrol.
His eyes glinted with cold amusement.
What can Shadow Clan do to deny it? Those stupid cats. They'd rather believe in nursery tales about dead ancestors than try figuring out things for themselves. All that nonsense about signs from Star Clan.
Hollyleaf glanced at Lionblaze. He was staring at Soul with narrowed eyes. His neck fur was slowly rising. You're no different from Tiger Star. Lionblaze growled. You don't want this for our sake. This is your ambition. Bunching his muscles, he launched himself upwards. His claws extended towards Soul. Hollyleaf flung herself at him, just managing to knock him away before he slashed into Soul's pelt. What are you doing? She gasped, pinning her brother to the floor. This isn't part of the prophecy. Lionblaze shook Hollyleaf off and sat up, glaring at Soul. He just wants to use us. The power is ours, not his. You're right. Jayfeather rose to his paws and flicked his tail towards Soul, who had not flinched at Lionblaze's attack or tried to respond to his accusation. Well, Soul doesn't care about us. He's still fighting his private battle with Shadow Clan because Blackstar made him leave the territory. That battle has nothing to do with us. The truth about our father exists somewhere, but this is not the way of finding it. Lionblaze rose to his paws. We're leaving, he announced, and we're not coming back. Hollyleaf stared at him in disbelief. We can't, she protested. We need to know. We don't need to know anything that Soul can tell us, Lionblaze insisted. We've been fools to trust him when we know what he's done to other cats. Can't you see that he just wants war between all the clans? The prophecy says nothing about that. It says that we were born with power. We shouldn't have to fight for it. Come on. He strode out of the den with Jayfeather hard on his paws. Hollyleaf took a pace after him, then glanced over her shoulder at Soul, but the loner simply stared back at her, giving her no help. With a hiss of mingled fury and desperation, Hollyleaf sprang after her littermates. We're the three! I can't do this on my own! Lionblaze and Jayfeather stood a fox lengths away from the den, waiting for her in the pouring rain. As she joined them, Soul appeared in the entrance.
Wait, he called. Don't you want to know who your father is?
Lionblaze ignored him. Come on, he meowed to Hollyleaf. This isn't the only way to find out the truth. We have to do this for ourselves, not for any other cat. Hollyleaf bowed her head, giving in, but as she picked her way through the soaking grass, beside Lionblaze, she could still feel Soul's amber gaze burning into her pelt. 26. 2 more chapters? Bro. I feel like this is a lie. There is definitely not only 2 chapters left. Sunrise Warrior Cats, how many chapters? Just 2? Apparently. Well, that's what this dang thing said, but I feel like it's lying to me.
Need to see. Wait, why am I Googling this? There's a table. There's a table of contents on this book. What's my problem? Okay. 28! Huh? My god. There's still so much that happens. Maybe there isn't so much that happens. There's just... It gets really crazy. Alright, I lost my spot. Way to go.
Way to go, No-No.
That's me, the clown. The clown of the crop. Alright, what chapter is this? 20... Oh, that's the last... Oh my god, the last chapter is massive. That makes sense. The last chapter starts on page, like, 1,400, and there's 2,000 pages. Of course, a lot of that will be empty pages, but still, like, that's, like, half the whole thing. Oh! I saw a spoiler from the end of that other chapter. Things are going down, guys. Chapter 26! Alright.
Things are happening. Things are about to happen. Things are gonna go crazy, wonky, funky.
Scroll. Up. Okay. By the time the three littermates stumbled back into the hollow, Jayfeather was so exhausted he could hardly feel his paws, and the rain had plastered his pelt to his sides. He felt as if he were struggling in a vast cobweb woven of lies and shadows, with an unseen spider waiting to pounce. Back in the old two-leg nest, he had been certain that they were right to abandon Soul, but now he wasn't so sure. What if the loner really was the only way to the truth? And what are we gonna say to when Firestar asks us where we've been? He'll claw us to pieces and toss us on the fresh kill pile. But as he staggered into the clearing, he heard a buzz of excitement rising from his clanmates, who were clustered together near the nursery. No cat was paying any attention to Jayfeather or his littermates. What's going on? A sudden rush of paw steps answered him as Foxpaw raced up to them. "It's White Wing!" he burst out. "She's having her kits!" At the same moment, Jayfeather heard Brightheart calling from the nursery. "Jayfeather, come quick! Leafpool needs you!" Jayfeather stifled a sigh. Another cat giving birth. Rats. He would far rather have crept into his nest to dry off his pelt and sleep. Instead, he headed for the nursery, brushing past Birchfall, who was tearing up grass in his anxiety. Inside, Daisy and Millie had drawn their own kits into their nest to give White Wing and Leafpool space. The young white she-cat was lying on one side, her breath coming fast and shallow. "You're doing fine," Leafpool reassured her, "and so are your kits. They'll be born before you know it." "I hope so," White Wing panted. Even though Leafpool sounded calm, Jayfeather could sense her fear. Leaning over, she whispered in his ear, "She's exhausted. I'm afraid she won't have enough strength left to deliver the kits." Jayfeather rested one paw lightly on White Wing's distended belly and concentrated. He could feel a double heartbeat inside her. Frail but steady. "She's having 2 kits," he announced. "Come on, White Wing, you can do it." "It's okay, little kits," he thought, as he crouched over the laboring she-cat, murmuring encouragement. "You're nearly safe. Just a little further." That's the nicest thing, gentlest I've ever heard Jayfeather be. Suddenly, his mind slid into White Wing's. He heard a vicious snarling and saw a vision of gaping fangs and lolling tongues, as if the young White Queen was imagining her kit savaged by dogs, just as her mother Brightheart had been. Oh my god. He heard the screech of battle with other clans and saw blood welling in the deep claw marks, scarlet against pale fur. He felt the grip of hunger in his belly as he looked out across the forest deep under the snow. Jayfeather startled back, his mind reeling. Does a mother really imagine her kids' whole lives before they're born? He sensed White Wing's terror as she lay silently begging him for help. Recovering, he bent close to the young she-cat. "Don't worry," he whispered. "Your daughters will be fine. They will be loved and protected by their clanmates."
He stroked one paw gently across White Wing's belly. It's time now. Yes.
Children's book, by the way.
Jayfeather felt a strong ripple pass through her belly. She let out a screech, and a tiny wet bundle slithered out onto the moss. Is she all right? White Wing panted. She's fine, Jayfeather assured her. Now the next one. White Wing lay still for a moment, then her belly arched as another ripple passed across her belly, and a second tiny bundle slid into the nest. Well done, Leafpool exclaimed. Greetings, little kits. Welcome to ThunderClan. The first kit squeaked loudly, and Leafpool uttered a soft meow of laughter. This one's tiny, but she's strong. There, little ones, go to your mother. They're beautiful, White Wing purred. Thank you, Jayfeather. And you, Leafpool. With one paw, she drew the tiny kits towards her and started to lick them vigorously. A wave of triumph swept through Jayfeather as he headed for the entrance to the nursery.
Okay, Bill, good luck.
Birchfall, he called. Come and meet your daughters. Birchfall burst past Jayfeather as he stumbled inside. Jayfeather almost staggered under the wave of relief and joy. White Wing, are you okay? He choked out. Oh, thanks, StarClan. What beautiful kits. Crouching beside Leafpool as she tended to White Wing, Jayfeather wondered whether she had felt the same when he and her other kits were born. Did our father share that same joy? More than anything, he wanted to talk to Leafpool, to hear her side of the story and learn the truth. In the closeness of working together, he felt for a few heartbeats that it might be possible. Leafpool, he began. Leafpool turned to him. She'll be fine now, the medicine cat meowed, cutting off what Jayfeather meant to say. Go and fetch me some more strengthening herbs and a few leaves of borage to help her milk come. And the moment was gone. Sure, Jayfeather replied, and slipped out of the nursery. By the time he had delivered the herbs, the rain was easing off. Jayfeather padded over to the fresh kill pile for a bite to eat before he went to his den. Several cats were clustered around it, sharing prey. Their delight washed over Jayfeather as he crouched to gulp down his full. It's hard to give birth to kits in Leaf Bear, Ferncloud mewed. White Wing has done really well. She'll raise them too. That was Mousefur, sounding less crochet-y than usual. White Wing is one of the best cats in this clan. When she was an apprentice, she always made sure we had fresh moss, and it was dry, too. We'll all have to watch our tails when those kits are old enough to leave the nursery. Dustpelt's voice held a hint of amusement. They'll have your blood, Cloudtail, and we all know what a hard time you gave Firestar when you were a kid. Cloudtail snorted. They'll be fine warriors, Dustpelt, and I'll claw any cat who says differently. Jayfeather, who was eating his prey, paused for a heartbeat as Hollyleaf and Lionblaze padded up and sat down beside him, listening to the cheerful talk in silence. None of them wanted to join in, but Jayfeather sensed that all of them felt cut off from one another, too. I remember when you three were kids, Breakinfur meowed, paw steps approaching, and the golden brown tabby flicked Jayfeather on the ear with his tail. Chasing foxes. It's a wonder any of you survived to be apprentices. Yeah, right, Jayfeather muttered. Suddenly, the happiness of his clanmates was more than he could bear. Without another word, even to his litter mates, he swallowed the last mouthful of wool and headed for his den. Jayfeather is the real empath. Curled up in his nest, Jayfeather woke to the sound of paw steps, and opening his eyes to see a skinny gray she-cat bending over him. Yellowfang! He exclaimed, sitting up. He was still in the medicine cat's den, bathed in the pale glow of moonlight. Leafpool was curled up asleep a couple of tail lengths away. The former medicine cat dropped a long dark feather onto the moss of Jayfeather's nest. The time for lies and secrets is over, she meowed. The truth must come out. StarClan was wrong not to tell you who you were for a long time ago. Then what? Jayfeather began, but already Yellowfang's shape was beginning to fade, melting into the moonlight until she was gone. The moonlight abruptly vanished, leaving Jayfeather in darkness as he woke from his dream. Housedung! Why can't any cat speak straight out? He hissed. But an icy weight in his belly made him realize that Yellowfang had told him all he needed to know. Feeling around in his nest, he found the feather she had dropped. It drew his pad down the long, smooth length. He could picture how it had gleamed black in the silver moonlight. "She brought me a crow's feather," he whispered. Scrambling out of his nest, he padded softly out of the den, taking care not to wake Leafpool. Once he was out into the clearing, he bounded over to the warrior's den. He crept around the outside, tasting the air until he located Lion Blaze sleeping close to the outer branches. Jayfeather scrambled around to find a loose bit of branch and poked it through the thorns until he felt the other end prod Lion Blaze. Get off! Lion Blaze swatted the branch. Lion Blaze! Jayfeather hissed, pressing as close as he could to his brother inside the den. I have to talk to you. Fetch Hollyleaf. It's the middle of the night, Lion Blaze protested. Keep your voice down. Do you want to wake every cat in the camp? This is important. We have to go somewhere. Okay. Keep your fur on. Jayfeather waited impatiently until his littermates pushed their way out through the branches. What do you mean, go somewhere? Lion Blaze whispered. Where? Into the forest. Somewhere we can talk. Hollyleaf yawned. This had better be worth it. It will be, Jayfeather promised. All three cats slid out of the camp through the dirt place tunnel, clinging to the shadows so as not to alert Poppyfrost, who was on watch. Then Jayfeather led them through the trees in the direction of the WindClan border. It's freezing out here, Hollyleaf complained. I'm not going another paw step until you explain. Okay. Jayfeather turned to face his littermates. I know who our father is. He hesitated, almost knocked over by the sudden surge of feelings that came from his brother and sister. He took a deep breath and went on. It's Crowfeather. For a few heartbeats. Crowfeather! Bro is named after his dad. You think about that? I do. I mean, you guys wouldn't because you just found out, but Leafpool was the one that gave Jayfeather his name. And she purposely picked Crowfeather. Like, Jayfeather. Because of Crowfeather. Wild. Anyways, for a few heartbeats there was silence. The emotions that churned out of his littermates now were so complex that Jayfeather knew he could never unravel them. Or half-clan? Hollyleaf choked out at last. How do you know about this? Lion Blaze sounded baffled. Yellowfin came to me in a dream, Jayfeather explained. She told me it was time we knew the truth, and she brought me a crow's feather. But that still might not mean... Hollyleaf's protest died away. All three cats knew the meaning of the sign. There was no point in trying to pretend it wasn't true. Does Crowfeather know about this? Lion Blaze demanded. Is that why Leafpool had to keep us a secret? Hollyleaf put in. Their questions battered at Jayfeather. I don't know, he told them. We have to talk to Crowfeather. Come on. The three cats headed silently through the forest. Drops from the recent heavy rains spattered their pelts as they brushed through the undergrowth. A chill breeze sprang up, ruffling their fur. Above his head, Jayfeather could hear the first chirps of waking birds. His mind was spinning. How could this have happened? Their mother was a medicine cat, their father a WindClan warrior. Both of them should have known that they could never be together. How could we be part of the prophecy when we should have never been born? Padding along Jayfeather's side, Lion Blaze was sending out steady surges of rage, a burning fury towards those cats who had abandoned the warrior code and piled up a heap of lies for the kits who were born as a result. On his other side, Hollyleaf was dazed, her whirling thoughts still too difficult to read. At last, Jayfeather could hear the gurgling of the border stream and taste the scent of fresh water. Still early, he remarked, but we might spot their dawn patrol. They drew to a halt on the bank of the stream. Jayfeather's legs were trembling with weariness. He would have liked to sink down into the long grass at the water's edge, but he knew he had to confront his father standing on his paws. Birdsong grew louder around them, and the bitter cold of night gradually eased. At last, Jayfeather caught a whiff of WindClan's scent. At the same moment, Hollyleaf exclaimed, There they are! Owlwhisker, Gorsetail, and Weaselfur. Lion Blaze meowed. Wait here, I'm going to talk to them. Wait! Jayfeather protested as he heard Lion Blaze leap across the stream, but his brother was gone, too angry to worry about crossing the border. What do you think you're doing? Owlwhisker demanded. All Lion Blaze suppressed rage came out in his voice. Fetch Crowfeather, now. What? Weaselfur exclaimed indignantly. Who do you think you are telling us what to do? Yeah, Gorsetail added. Get back into your own territory or we'll tear your fur off.
A low growl came from Lion Blaze. Jayfeather pictured him looming over the 3 WindClan cats, his golden fur fluffed out till he was twice his size. "Just do it," he ordered. "Okay." Owlwhisker mewed, his voice shrill as he tried to conceal his fear. "But you can wait on your own side of the border." Jayfeather heard the WindClan warriors bounding away, then a thud as Lion Blaze jumped back across the stream and landed beside him. His claws tore up the grass as they waited, all as if his fury had to find some kind of outlet. Jayfeather's belly churned when he caught the scent of an approaching WindClan cat on the breeze. Just one. Crowfeather had come alone. He could feel Hollyleaf quivering beside him. Her tail kept twitching, brushing against his pelt. At last, Crowfeather's voice came from the other side of the border. "What do you want?" Words choked in Jayfeather's throat as the 3 littermates faced the WindClan warrior across the stream. He heard a sharp intake of breath from Hollyleaf, but Lion Blaze didn't hesitate. "Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight are not our parents," he declared. "Leafpool is our mother and you are our father." There was a pause. Then, "Don't be mouse-brained," Crowfeather snapped. "That's impossible." He sounded so certain that for a heartbeat, Jayfeather wondered if they could possibly be mistaken. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into Crowfeather's mind. A tangle of undergrowth faced him, and he realized that he was standing on top of a cliff above the stone hollow. Leafpool was clinging to the edge, her face upturned pleadingly as Crowfeather grabbed her by the scruff and hauled her back to safety. Then he glimpsed them crouched together under a bush, and he heard Crowfeather meow. "Come away with me, Leafpool. I'll take good care of you, I promise." Now the 2 of them were trekking side by side up a long slope of moorland, then in a hollow, talking to Midnight the Badger. "I have to go back," Leafpool mewed. Caterwauling ripped through Jayfeather's vision as he glimpsed the stone hollow full of warring badgers, while his clanmates attacked them fiercely. Last of all, Leafpool faced Crowfeather in the clearing among the debris of the battle. "Your heart lies here," Crowfeather murmured. Jayfeather could hardly believe the warrior could sound so gentle. "Not with me. It never truly was with me." The vision had taken no more than a moment, but when Jayfeather let go of the WindClan warrior's mind, he was sure that Yellowfang's sign had not deceived him. Just as he was sure that Crowfeather had no idea that he had fathered Leafpool's kits. "It's true," he meowed. "You didn't know, did you?" "No." For a heartbeat, Crowfeather sounded dazed. Then Jayfeather felt anger growing within him. "I have 1 mate," he snarled. "Her name is Nightcloud. We have 1 son, Breezebelt. I don't know why you've come to me with these lies. Go home and don't come back. Why should I care about ThunderClan cats? You mean nothing to me. Nothing." Jayfeather heard a gasp from Hollyleaf and the sound of Lion Blaze's claws scraping against the stone. Calmly, he faced his father. "The truth is out now," he warned. "None of us can hide from it again." Chapter 27.
So they're like step siblings to Breezepelt, which is hilarious. Oh my god, how many dang empty? Oh, there we go. Chapter 27. Like a mouse chapter. The rest of the day passed in a haze of pain. When Hollyleaf finally curled up in her nest, her dreams were full of darkness. Thick undergrowth surrounded her, leaving scarcely a glimpse of the sky. She heard cats yowling at a distance, but however fast she ran towards them, she never managed to catch up with them. When she woke to see dawn light filtering through the branches of the den, she still felt exhausted, as though she had really been running through that dark forest. She staggered to her paws and prodded Lion Blaze. "What are we gonna do?" she demanded in an urgent whisper as her brother blinked up at her. "I can't go on like this." "I don't know." Lion Blaze gave a quick glance around the den, as if he was afraid that some cat would overhear. "We'll talk later." He pushed his way out through the branches, convinced that he was trying to avoid her. Hollyleaf followed hard on his paws. "Hollyleaf, Lion Blaze!" Brambleclaw spotted them as soon as they emerged from the warrior's den. "Sandstorm is taking out a hunting patrol. Can you go with her?" "Sure." Lion Blaze meowed, swerving across the clearing to where Sandstorm waited beside the deputy with Berrynose and Hazeltail. Hollyleaf was still dazed as she followed, as if her paws belonged to some other cat. How could she fit into the clan's everyday routine now that she knew the terrible secret of her birth?
She felt as if the sky should have cracked open or the moon fallen down into the hollow.
Don't forget, it's gathering tonight, Brambleclaw reminded them. The clans need to eat well before the journey.
We will, don't worry, Sandstorm promised, her whiskers twitching as she signaled to her patrol with her tail and headed for the camp entrance. Hollyleaf followed, but she couldn't concentrate on hunting. Pain dazzled her mind like lightning splitting the sky. She had built her life on the warrior code, and now it had failed her. It didn't matter anymore. It had been broken too many times. Squirrelflight had broken it by lying, Crowfeather by falling in love with a medicine cat, but most of all, Leafpool had shattered the code and trampled it into a dust. She had betrayed her clan, her duty as a medicine cat, and her kits. A mouse darted out in front of Hollyleaf's paws, and instinctively she leaped on it, her claws sinking into the soft body. A picture of Leafpool flashed in front of her eyes in a pulsing red haze, and she tore at the prey, imagining that she was clawing the life out of the cat she hated so much.
Hollyleaf, stop!
Thank you for the alert, Kaito.
Hazeltail's voice was shocked. What are you doing?
Hollyleaf's vision cleared. She saw her paws dripping with scarlet. The prey she had caught was reduced to a red pulp. There was nothing left to take back to the fresh kill pile.
Fury surging through her, she rounded on Hazeltail.
Stay out of my fur!
Hazeltail backed away, her eyes wide and scared, then whipped around and plunged away into the break-in.
Bruh.
After the hunting patrol returned, Hollyleaf was too disturbed to stay in the camp. She didn't want to talk to anymore, especially not to Lionblaze or Jayfeather. Instead, she headed out alone, down to the lake and then along the WindClan border until she reached the ridge and could look out across the roaring moorland. Somewhere out there was the WindClan camp and the cat who was her father. His WindClan blood ran in her veins. But I don't feel half WindClan. Hollyleaf knew her home was under the trees, hunting mice and squirrels. The WindClan rabbits looked scrawny and tasteless from running across the hills. She hated the open spaces and the unrelenting wind. Gazing out across her father's territory, she yowled silently, "No! No! No!" As shadows fell across the stone hollow, Firestar called together the cats who were going to the gathering. Hollyleaf padded up to join Jayfeather and Lionblaze, deliberately not looking at Squirrelflight and Leafpool a few paces away. Graystripe, Brambleclaw, and Sandstorm bounded up, followed by Cinderheart, Poppyfrost, and Berrynose.
Let's go, Firestar meowed. And the less we say about Soul, the better, okay?
He led them down to the lake and along the edge of the water, splashing through the border stream. Hollyleaf felt every hair on her pelt prickle with disgust as she set paw on WindClan territory. I don't belong here. I want nothing to do with the WindClan. More rain had fallen earlier in the day, but now the clouds had cleared away, leaving the full moon to shine brightly. Hollyleaf stopped and stared up at it. Do you approve of what I'm going to do, StarClan? With every paw step, she was alert for the sight or scent of WindClan cats. She wondered if Crowfeather had been chosen to go to the gathering. Why should it matter? She thought fiercely. He's nothing to me. Nothing. Just ahead of her, Firestar was flanked by Graystripe and Sandstorm. You know, I still miss the 4 trees, Sandstorm murmured. The moon seemed brighter there, somehow. Firestar gave her an affectionate nudge. You sound like an elder. Sandstorm swatted at him with her tail. You wait, I'll be the crankiest elder the clans have ever seen. Mousefur will seem sweet and gentle next to me.
And hedgehogs will fly, Graystripe meowed. But I miss the old forest too, he added. It's the place we were born. These younger cats will feel just the same about the lake.
Isn't that right? He glanced over his shoulder at Lionblaze and Hollyleaf. Lionblaze managed a brief nod, but Hollyleaf couldn't reply at all. Sheer envy surged over her. Jealousy of these cats who knew where they belonged, who had good memories of living by the warrior code, season after season. They don't know it's all a lie! The horse place was dark and silent when the ThunderClan cats padded past. There was still no sign of WindClan. Hollyleaf assumed they had already made their way to the island. When they reached the tree bridge, they found RiverClan in the middle of the crossing. Firestar held back his warriors with a polite nod to Leopardstar Leopard Star. While she waited, Hollyleaf flexed her claws in and out, her belly churning. This'll be a gathering none of them will ever forget. Leaping from the roots at the other end of the tree bridge, she paused to taste the mingled scents of the other three clans. We're the last, Cinderheart meowed, landing beside her. We better be quick. Hollyleaf followed her clanmates across the strip of pebbles and into the undergrowth. There was no need to hurry. She had set her paws on the path she had chosen, and the time for her to act would come as surely as one season gave way to the next. When she pushed through the bushes and into the clearing around the great oak, she hesitated, awed in spite of herself by the mass of cats in front of her. Clan mixed with clan as the cats found themselves places around the tree. Then Hollyleaf's paws carried her forward, weaving a path through the crowd. She was scarcely aware of Tawny Pelt greeting her, or of the Shadow Clan Queen's affronted look as she brushed past. She ignored the snatches of gossip that she picked up as she padded past. What has all that got to do with me now? She found a place to sit, close to the great oak, where she could look up and see the clan leaders crouched among the branches. One star comfortably settled in the fork of a branch. Black Star crouched on the lowest branch with his tail hanging down. Leopard Star standing a tail length higher, impatiently scratching at the bark. Firestar leaped up to join them, scattering a few late acorns as the branch he chose swayed under him. Lionblaze had followed Hollyleaf across the clearing and sat down next to her. Crowfeather's here, he muttered. I know. Hollyleaf had already spotted the Wind Clan warrior, but he hadn't seemed to notice her. Now she glanced to where Lionblaze was pointing his tail, and she saw her father sitting close to Nightcloud and Breezepelt. His head was turned away, but Hollyleaf guessed that he knew exactly where she and her brothers were. All his kids together at once. How nice for him. A shrill yowl sounded from the branches of the tree, and Leopard Star stepped forward. The noise in the clearing stilled as the cats fell silent and turned to look up at her. I've been waiting for this moment since we started this series.
The gathering has begun, she announced. RiverClan will report first. Prey is running well. Mistyfoot, Reed Whisker, and Rainstorm drove a fox out of our territory.
She stepped back with a curt nod to Black Star. The Shadow Clan leader rose. While below him, Hollyleaf drove her claws into the ground, her whole body quivering with tension. Suddenly, she wasn't sure she would know when her time to act would come. StarClan, give me a sign if you're even watching.
Shadow Clan is thriving, Black Star reported. Little Cloud has taken Flamepaw as his apprentice and introduced him to StarClan at the Moon Pool.
A murmur of congratulations rose from the assembled cats, with a few yowls of Flamepaw! Flamepaw! Hollyleaf spotted the young cat sitting with Little Cloud and the other medicine cats, his eyes shining with pride. Claws tore at her heart. I felt like that once. One Star followed Black Star, but he had nothing to tell them about except the dead sheep on the border stream, which his warriors had dragged out to keep the water clean. Then it was Firestar's turn. Rising to his paws, he balanced on the branch and looked down into the clearing with his green eyes glowing in the moonlight. Soul has left the forest, he began.
About time, too,
Black Star growled. Leopard Star dipped her head to Firestar with cold courtesy.
I'm glad you saw sense at last, Firestar.
Firestar returned the nod equally politely, though Hollyleaf could see his claws tightening in his branch. Besides that,
Now! Wait!
Hollyleaf leaped to her paws.
There's something that I have to say that all the clan should hear.
What? Lineblaze reached up and dragged at her with one paw, trying to get her to sit down again.
Are you mouse-brained? Warriors don't speak here. This one does.
Hollyleaf hissed, shaking him off. She spotted Jayfeather among the other medicine cats, his expression utterly horrified, but she ignored him.
She began. Hollyleaf!
Firestar's voice rang out from the branch where he stood looking down at her. His eyes smoldered with green fire. If you have anything important to say here, it should have been discussed with me first. Be silent now, and whatever's troubling you, I'll talk to you about it tomorrow. Moons spent following the warrior code almost forced Hollyleaf to clamp her jaws shut
and sit down. I have to obey my clan leader. Then she braced herself. The warrior code is dead. There's no point in trying to follow it anymore.
No!
She meowed, ignoring the gasps of shock from the cats around her.
I will speak now.
Yes, let her speak. Leopard Star stepped forward again, looking down curiously at Hollyleaf.
I'd like to hear what she has to say.
So would I, One Star growled. Or has ThunderClan got secrets that they're too scared to reveal? Black Star taunted, flicking his tail contemptuously at Firestar. Yowling broke out all around the clearing as the cats from the other 3 clans challenged ThunderClan. Hollyleaf stood in the middle of the uproar, feeling strangely calm. She knew she needed to wait only a few heartbeats more. At last, Firestar raised his tail for silence. Very well, Hollyleaf, he mewed when the noise had died down. Say what you have to, and StarClan grant you don't regret it. Now the clearing was so quiet that Hollyleaf could hear a mouse scuttering among the dead leaves under the great oak.
You think you know me, she began again. And my brothers, Lionblaze and Jayfeather of ThunderClan. You think you know us, but everything you've been told about us is a lie. We are not the kits of Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight.
What? Brambleclaw shot to his paws from where he sat with the other deputies among the roots of the great oak. His amber eyes flamed. Squirrelflight, why is she saying such nonsense? Squirrelflight stood up. The flare of panic in her eyes faded and was replaced with, what? Regret? Guilt? Or the sorrow of a mother who was about to lose her kits forever? I'm sorry, Brambleclaw, but it's true. I'm not their mother, and you are not their father. The clan deputy stared at her. Then who is? Squirrelflight turned her sad green gaze on the cat she had always claimed as her daughter. Tell them, Hollyleaf. I kept the secret for seasons. I'm not going to reveal it now.
Coward!
Hollyleaf flashed at her. Her gaze swept around the clearing, seeing the eyes of every single cat trained on her.
I'm not afraid of the truth. Leafpool is our mother, and Crowfeather, yes, Crowfeather of WindClan, is our father.
Yowls of shock greeted her words, but Hollyleaf shouted over them.
These cats were so ashamed of us that they gave us away and lied to every single one of you to hide the fact that they had broken the warrior code. It's all her fault.
She whipped her tail around to point at Leafpool.
How can the clan survive when there are cowards and liars at the very heart of them?
The screeches and gasps of horror grew so loud that Hollyleaf couldn't make herself heard anymore, but there was no need. She had said what she had come to say. Her legs trembled as if she had run all the way across the territory, and she had to sit down. Inside, she felt a curious peace, as if she had laced a festering sore and was watching the poison drain away. Crowfeather's voice rose above the rest in a furious yowl. It's not true! He had sprung to his paws, his dark gray fur bristling. Beside him, Nightcloud and Breezepaw looked bewildered and angry. She's the one who's lying! Then Leafpool stood up. The crowd of cats fell silent, their eyes turned towards her. It's true, Crowfeather, she meowed. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but there was never a right time. Her amber eyes were seared with grief. Pity stirred in Hollyleaf, but she choked it all down. I hate her! She lied and betrayed us all! You mean nothing to me, Leafpool. Crowfeather's voice was cold. That moon has passed. My loyalty is only to WindClan, and I have no kits other than Breezepelt. He glanced to where Nightcloud and Breezepelt stood beside him. The black she-cat had her ears flattened to her head, while Breezepelt's teeth were bared in a snarl. Leafpool dipped her head as if she wasn't going to argue. Then she looked up at Firestar, who was crouched on his branch, as still as a cat made out of stone. I know that I cannot be ThunderClan's medicine cat any longer, she meowed. I'm so very sorry to you, Firestar, and to all my clanmates. Please know that I tried my best and regretted what I had done with every single breath. Her voice was cracked on the last word, and she paused, swallowing, before she continued. But I couldn't regret having my kits. They are fine cats, and I will always be proud of them. She gave Crowfeather one last glance, then padded across the clearing with her head bowed. Cat scrambled out of her way as she made for the bushes and pushed her way through, out of sight. Every cat stared after her, still shocked into silence. Brambleclaw was the first to move, padding forward until he stood face to face with Squirrelflight. Why? He meowed.
Squirrelflight's voice was desperate. I had to! She's my sister! And you couldn't trust me? Brambleclaw's voice was shaking, and Hollyleaf saw a deep shudder pass through his body. For a heartbeat, she was sorry for what she had done. This was a noble cat, and he had not been responsible for any of the lives. I was so proud when I thought he was my father. Squirrelflight did not reply, just held his gaze without flinching. You couldn't trust me, he repeated. Don't you think I would have helped you if you'd told me the truth? But it's too late now. He turned away, shouldering a path through the crowd. Brambleclaw! Squirrelflight took a pace after him, then halted, her head hanging and her tail drooping in despair. Hollyleaf turned her back. Let her suffer. She deserves it. A cat nudged her from behind. It was Cinderheart. What have you done? She cried. Hollyleaf blinked in surprise. I did the right thing. The gray she-cat shook her head. There's no right thing. Everything to do with this leads to more pain. The wisdom in her voice seemed to come from a much older and much more experienced cat. Hollyleaf waited for her to say something else, something to show how sorry she felt for Hollyleaf and her littermates, but Cinderheart just turned and patted away. Hollyleaf stared after her. Why didn't she understand? Surely any cat could see that they couldn't have carried on living a lie. Besides, StarClan hadn't sent clouds over to cover the moon. Her warrior ancestors must be pleased that the secrets were out and the deceit was at an end. But none of the cats here seemed pleased. Not even her own clanmates. Sandstorm was staring at her, bewilderment and sorrow in her green gaze. Graystripe's amber eyes were blank with disbelief. Poppyfrost and Berrynose had their heads close together, talking urgently and shooting hostile glances at her. Suddenly, Hollyleaf couldn't bear to be stared at for another heartbeat. Blundering through the crowd, she thrust through the bushes, ignoring the thorns that tore her pelt, and fled across the strip of pebbles and over the tree bridge. Racing past the horseplace, she began to climb the ridge, skirting the wind-cloud border until she reached the very top and could look out over the lake. A silver path of moonlight stretched across the surface of the water. The reflections of countless warriors of StarClan glittered around it. Was it all worth it? Hollyleaf wailed to them. Being an apprentice, working hard to learn the warrior code? What could any of us have done to make things different? The flickering stars gave her no answer. Hollyleaf padded along the ridge until she reached her own territory and could plunge back into the trees. When she arrived in the stone hollow, everything was quiet. The gathering patrol had not yet returned, and the other cats were asleep, except for Brightheart, on watch beside the entrance. Hollyleaf brushed past her, ignoring the she-cat's greeting. She stalked across the clearing in the bright wash of moonlight and entered the medicine cat's den. Her heartbeat quickened when she saw there was no sign of Leafpool. I know what I'm going to do. All this is Leafpool's fault. Crawling right to the back of the storage cave, she found the leaf wrap with the death berries and drew it out carefully. She placed it on the floor of the den and unfolded the leaf so the glossy red berries were exposed. They had begun to shrivel, but she knew they still held their deadly poison. Hollyleaf sat beside the berries, wrapped her tail over her paws, and waited. Soon she heard a slow paw step inside, and Leafpool pushed past the bramble screen and stood in front of her. Hollyleaf. She didn't sound surprised to find her daughter there. Her eyes were full of weariness and sorrow. It's all right, she mewed. I forgive you. What? Hollyleaf sprang to her paws. You forgive me? You're the one who needs forgiveness. You abandoned your kids. You let us grow up in a web of lies, and now the warrior code must be broken forever because of your stupid, selfish actions. Do you think you need to tell me that? Leafpool asked, still with the same exhausted calm. I can only tell you how much I love you. I'm so sorry for what I did. And you expect me to forgive you? Hollyleaf snarled. Well, I don't. I never will. For bristling, she patted around Leafpool until she blocked the entrance to the den. See those death berries? You're gonna eat them, or I'll make you. What? Leafpool sounded bewildered. Eat them. You deserve to die. Hollyleaf crouched, ready to spring, when the medicine cat made no move towards the death berries. I've killed once, she snarled, and I can do it again. A gleam of some emotion that Hollyleaf couldn't read woke in her mother's eyes. Hollyleaf. Leafpool meowed. I have lost my kits, the one cat I loved, and my calling as a medicine cat. Which do you think would be easier for me, to die or to go on living? There was only one answer to that question. Silently, Hollyleaf stood aside, and Leafpool padded past her and out of the den. My goodness.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the little follow. Ponyo.
I'm so sorry I didn't reply immediately. We were literally at the climax of the book.
And hi, Tawashi. Thank you so much.
Okay, last chapter, guys. Last chapter. Let's go. Let's go. How long is this thing? Oh, there we go. Jayfeather slid through the thorn tunnel and stood panting in the middle of the clearing. He had raced back from the island as soon as the gathering broke up, struggling through the mass of bewildered cats to get across the tree bridge. He scented Leafpool leaving their den. Right now, she was the last cat he wanted to talk to. Beyond her, fainter, he picked up Hollyleaf's scent. What's she doing in our den? What did she say to Leafpool? Darting across the clearing, he crashed through the brambles and confronted his littermate. Hollyleaf, what are you doing here? Sniffing, he detected another scent. Why are there deathberries out here? Leave me alone! Hollyleaf screeched. Before Jayfeather could dodge, she leaped at him, bowling him over and raking her claws across his shoulder. Jayfeather's legs flailed, and his hind paws connected with Hollyleaf's belly. Her anger and despair flooded over him as she gave him a cuff over the ear and fled out of the den. Hollyleaf, wait! Jayfeather scrambled to his paws and launched himself after her. When he emerged into the clearing, Hollyleaf was already plunging into the thorn tunnel. Jayfeather raced after her, his belly fur brushing the ground as he broke out into the forest. The sense of more cats greeted him as the rest of the gathering patrol returned to the camp. Jayfeather, what's wrong? Lineblaze called out. He turned and bounded along beside him. What's happening? He gasped. It's Hollyleaf, Jayfeather panted. We've got to catch her. Hollyleaf was headed deep into the forest, crashing through bracken and brambles as if she had suddenly lost her sight. Hollyleaf, come back! Lineblaze yowled. We need to talk! But Hollyleaf didn't slacken her pace. Briefly, she burst out into the old two-legged path that led past the abandoned den, then veered into the undergrowth again. I know where she's going, Jayfeather panted, feeling a chill run through him. The old tunnels. But she can't! Lineblaze sounded terrified. Hollyleaf, stop! Racing around the bramble thicket, Jayfeather and Lineblaze came face to face with their sister. She had halted just inside the mouth of a tunnel halfway up the ridge, above the abandoned two-legged nest. It wasn't the one Jayfeather had used before. There was a stale scent of fox, overlaid with the smell of water and stone drifting from the darkness behind her. Jayfeather tried to speak calmly. Hollyleaf, you've got to listen to us. Hollyleaf didn't seem to hear. I'm sorry, she meowed softly. I was only trying to do what was best. I couldn't let Ashfur live. For all our sakes. You understand that, don't you? Jayfeather caught his breath. Beside him, he heard Lineblaze gasp. You killed Ashfur? If Hollyleaf replied, Jayfeather didn't hear it. Hating his powers more than he ever had before, he had reached out into his sister's memories. She was stalking Ashfur along the WindClan border stream, treading lightly, avoiding boulders where her claws might scrape or ferns that would brush against her fur. Ashfur's, intent on hunting, never noticed she was there. Hollyleaf followed him like a shadow until they came to a place where the bank was steep and slippery, and the stream was foaming snake far below. She pounced on him from a rock, gripping his shoulders with her forepaws and twisting her head around to sink her teeth into his throat. Inside, the red mist that clouded her senses, Ashfur was nothing but prey, something that had to be killed to protect the warrior code and the future of her clan. Ashfur clawed feebly at her, but blood was gushing from his throat. His body went limp, and Hollyleaf leaped away, letting it crash into the stream. She stood, watching it for a while, until the swift flowing of water had washed away the blood. Then she padded up to a pool of water on the top of the bank and rinsed her paws, turning the water red. Behind her, Ashfur's body bobbed against the bank before floating away downstream. He should have been swept into the lake and never seen again. Hollyleaf's voice wrenched Jayfeather out of her terrible memories. But they found him, and now everything's ruined. I can't stay here. Despair vibrated in her voice.
Yeah.
I know I did the right thing, but no cat will ever understand.
There was a patter of paws as she turned and fled down the tunnel. Running forward, Jayfeather could hear the roaring of the river underground, pounding hungrily against the stone.
Hollyleaf, no! He howled. We can figure this out together.
A deafening rumble interrupted him. It went on and on. He pictured wet soil and rock raining down as the tunnel collapsed, crashing into his sister, knocking her to the floor, crushing her, burying her. He darted forward.
Hollyleaf!
Lineblaze charged into him, knocking him off his paws and pinning him down. Jayfeather writhed furiously underneath him.
Let me up! He screeched. We have to get her out.
We can't help her, Lineblaze growled. The tunnel has collapsed. There's no way we can follow her in. Jayfeather lay still, panting, as the tumult of falling earth and stones died away. In the silence, Lineblaze stepped back and let him clamber to his paws. Hollyleaf had seen the tunnels as a way to escape her clan and everything that had gone wrong, except she hadn't escaped. Not the way that she wanted. It's over, Lineblaze meowed, his voice shaking. I don't understand. Jayfeather was trembling with shock and grief. She killed Ashfur to keep the secret safe, but then she revealed it to every cat at the gathering. It wasn't the same. Lineblaze pressed up against him until Jayfeather felt his brother's dismay mingling with his own. Hollyleaf couldn't bear the thought of being a medicine cat's kid. She couldn't bear the idea that she was half-clan. The warrior code meant everything to her, and her birth smashed it into pieces. We should have done something, Jayfeather insisted. What are we going to tell the clan? Lineblaze let out an exhausted sigh. We can't tell them she killed Ashfur. How can we let that be the only thing she's remembered for? Jayfeather nodded. After all this, there was one more secret to keep, for Hollyleaf's sake. Let's say that she chased a squirrel into the tunnel, and it collapsed on her. They can remember her for being a brave hunter, feeding her clan. They don't need to know the truth, that she was trying to escape from them. Slowly, they began limping back into camp. Jayfeather felt a fresh breeze ruffling his fur and drew in a long, cold gulp of air. As a new day was beginning, but all he wanted was to go back to his den, curl up, and try to escape into sleep. How could the sun rise today, after everything that had happened? Suddenly, he halted. The prophecy! He burst out. Lineblaze, who had padded on a few paw steps, stopped. How can you think about that now? But don't you see? Jayfeather clawed at the grass. What happens to the prophecy if Hollyleaf is dead? It said there would be 3 cats, and now there are only 2. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if that's the end. Oh, it's not. Jayfeather stretched his cramped limbs and turned his face up to the first feeble rays of the sun. All night his clanmates had kept vigil for Hollyleaf, even though there was no body to be buried. Cats were beginning to stir around him, and a few fox lengths away he could hear Brambleclaw quietly calling together a dawn patrol. A full day and night had passed since the gathering and the death of Hollyleaf in the tunnels. The day before, Firestar had addressed the shattered ThunderClan from the high ledge. Last night, Hollyleaf revealed secrets that shocked us all, he meowed. But that prey is eaten. There can be no going back. Instead, we must find a way forward for all of us. What about the other clans? Dustbelt called out. They all know what happened thanks to Hollyleaf. Maybe Hollyleaf should not have spoken out, Firestar admitted, but she has paid terribly. As for the other clans, they think we aren't broken. It's up to us to show them that we are not. ThunderClan will survive. Yowls of agreement rose from the listening cats. Jayfeather could feel their shock and distress giving way to a new sense of purpose. Now he rose, gave himself a long stretch, and sat down to groom his pelt, craning his neck to reach over to the fur on his back. After a few moments, he became aware of movement outside the nursery as several of his clanmates gathered there. He padded across to find out what was going on. It's White Wings kits, Lineblaze told him. It's the first time they've left the nursery.
Their eyes are open, White Wing was announcing delightedly as Jay Feather and his brother approached. Aren't they beautiful? A loud squeaking and patter of tiny paws drew closer and then stopped. Jay Feather felt a powerful curiosity trained on him. Hello, little kits, Lion Blaze murmured. Welcome to ThunderClan. This one has such fluffy gray fur, Sandstorm commented, and the little one's tabby and white pelt is so pretty. Have you given them names yet? Yes. Yes, it was Birchfall who replied, sounding ready to burst with pride. We've called the gray one Dovekit, and the tabby and white one is Ivykit. Those are beautiful names, Brightheart purred. The ginger and white she-cat was sitting close by, with Cloudtail beside her, watching their daughter's kits. Jayfeather could feel their happiness at seeing all their kin healthy and strong. It was brighter than the sun, just breaking over the trees at the top of the hollow. Another scent wafted past him as Firestar bounded up. This is good to see, the clan leader meowed. They'll be apprentices before we know it. Jayfeather suddenly felt a jolt in his belly like a blow from some cat's paw. He clawed at Lion Blaze. The prophecy, he whispered. What? Get off! Lion Blaze sounded irritated. There will be 3, kin of your kin. Jayfeather's voice shook as he wondered if he could possibly be right. Cloudtail is Firestar's kin. White Wing is Cloudtail's daughter, and now Dovekit and Ivykit. Don't you see? The prophecy isn't over. We aren't the only kin of Firestar's kin. It doesn't matter which of White Wing's kits is the one. There are still 3 of us. The end. We did it. We did it! Bruh. Despair, you saying? Yes. Yes, yes.
So, Pappy, how did you like it?
Dang, dude. Oh, the thrill of warrior cats. Wait, now I can show you guys my favorite AMV ever. This is my most favorite. It'll give you like, I kind of thought something was going to go down with it. Yeah. And it all makes sense in hindsight, right? She never got a power. She was never chosen. She was never one of the 3. Ollie Leaf. Where is it? Wolf. I found it. Okay. This is my favorite AMV of all time, and I wanted to show you guys so badly, but I could never show it to you because of the spoilers. Okay, hold on. We have to go to gaming. Oh. I have a green screen on. I forgot about that. Close your eyes, guys. All right. I think it's loading. Oh.
Gaming? Gaming! No, we're not gaming. We're watching an AMV.
Watching the AMV. The AMV. Are you ready for this, guys? I don't think you're ready for this. First, for context, so you can fully appreciate this art that you are going to witness, this was all drawn on an iPad with their finger because they didn't have their pencil, their eye pencil. So they drew this all with their finger. So yeah. Just so you can fully appreciate it. Okay, can you guys hear it? Okay, you can hear it. Okay. Wait, dang. Ash for your
Dang fishing is in the way of the most beautiful AMV of all time.
I have to lower my... I caught Wahoo again. Congrats on your Wahoo. Cry about it.
I will! Where are you? I'm hiding you. The heck is it? Gamers? No. Widgets? Fun things. You're still gonna be fishing, but you just won't be on the screen. Okay, ready? Are you here? Pappy, are you here? I need you to see this, Pappy. Emolga, we just finished! We're gonna watch my favorite AMV ever. But I need Pappy to see it. No, you can't suppress the fish. The fish is suppressed. All right, ready? Ready? Okay, let's go. That ending didn't happen, but the rest did. Hollyleaf. Look at how many Hollyleaf AMVs there are. Too ambiguous. And I don't... After this point, that book, that was the last Warrior Cat book. I think I actually read maybe the first of the next series, but after that, I don't know what happens. So, I don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, it was from Jay Feather's POV too, right? So we technically don't see her die. She just vanished. I wonder if I can find... Uka. Look at how long ago these were. 7 years ago. Didn't deserve to be dragged into... I know, right? Can I fish yet? All right, you can fish. I mean, you could fish the whole time, but...
This is funny.
So she's smiling at me and telling me that she loves me, and I just look at her and I can't muster up anything. I feel nothing, and I feel empty, and I'm scared.
Oh my god, I don't fucking
It's my favorite thing. Every single one of like Jay Feather memes is just so funny. The garden. It's true, he doesn't care. Peppermint. Oh, this is new. Oh, it's a meme. Never mind. Echo. Hollyleaf needs a doctor. I still can't show you the crazy one yet. Can I? Barley! I miss Barley. You're right. You wanna watch? Wanna watch Ashford Die by Artists Drawing?
This guy's been there for me. A fucking jam.
There's a blood and gore warning, by the way. By the way. I mean, like, it was described in the book, but still.
It takes me back in like a friend. But what is he good for?
People are so good at drawing. This is like a whole animation.
giving a damn about. I hate worrying about the future, cause all my fucking problems are based around the past. And I hate when you call me late at night just to check in to make sure I got nothing to be sad about.
This is technically spoilers, but we don't know them.
Alright, and I'm okay. I won't need your help anyway. I will. I hate having to think about my future when all I wanna do is worry about everyone but me.
Fine, great. Aww.
Dead. Oh my god, Sin Triangle? Love this song. Sorry, I'm
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum.
Got to work my brain, then I'm going back to my grave, and I'm certain.
we can't watch this. This is is this the I think this is an AU where she's alive. So we can't watch that.
Cause it could be real, but we don't know.
We don't know if it's real. Anyways, look at this is my YouTube. Minto. Oh my god, she has a
Otacon. Me? I feel like a new man. So what are you gonna do? Continue your research?
she has a model. So funny. Yeah, this face help. Chappelle Rowan, Chappelle Rowan, Moe Shop, Warrior Cats, Minto.
All right, guys, that's it. That's the whole show. After this, now the next book, I think I read all of it or I only read half of it. I can't quite remember, but I do remember it. So after the first book, there's nothing. There's nothing. I don't know anything. I only know the spoilers that I picked up along the way by watching too many AMVs, which happens, you know, it happens. Do I have like?
So I thought that I had it automatically.
All right, guys. We did it! We did it. We finished it. We finished it. It's all done. Now we can go on to the fourth series. I wish I had taken note of the very first day. The very first day that I
You know, started reading.
because I know it's been over a year. Yeah, head pads. Oh yeah, head pads work on this model.
Still haven't set them up on my other model.
Take back in head pad. So that's what we have to do. That's what's going on. No reading next week. I guess we're reading the next week. Possibly? I don't know. I might no. I think I'm coming home on the Monday, so So yeah. I gave myself freckles, but technically my model doesn't have freckles. And I don't have freckles. I can get so close. Big worm. All right, I have to go shopping now. I need to go get some chicken for my cat so that she can eat and drink. And hopefully doesn't have any more diarrheas. Cause that's sad. It's dangerous for cats to have the wet poos. Hopefully it is almost all out of her system though. Oh. Get a yellow guru energy drink. Oh my god, I think I know what those are. But we don't sell them. I don't think so, at least. I don't think an energy drink will help her. Oh. Really? Hold on, I'm looking it up. Because I only ever see them in Toronto. Guru energy drink. I have a very vivid... Yeah! Okay, we do sell those. I think that they don't exist in normal stores, but we do sell them in my store. Are they good? I've never had them before. Guru. Natural caffeine. Wow. So yeah, guys. The yellow one is so tasty. Ooh, nice. Next time I need to get an energy drink, I'll get the Guru yellow one. And then I'll tell you how it is. Because, yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, no, never mind. Okay, guys. Woo, woo. I also have to get some eggs and butter because I got this, like, jar full of cookies. Like a... Okay, I should put that on. It's like a... It's not a jar full of cookies, it's a jar with all the cookie ingredients in it, but I just need eggs and butter. And we only have 1 egg, and I need 2 eggs, so I have to get some eggs. And we probably don't need butter, but I got a new, like, butter, like one of those, like, butter containers you can put on your counter, and it looks really cute, and so I want to put, like, a fresh butter in it, you know? Not like an old butter that's been beaten up and eaten halfway. Wait, can I show you guys? It's not done yet. Hopefully, guys, by July 6th, there'll be something exciting for me to show you. It's like right before I'm gonna leave on my trip, so hopefully it happens so that I can show it to you. Yeah, big eyes, super big eyes. It'll be really exciting if it happens on the 6th before my trip. Otherwise, I'll have to show you after the trip. Okay, I'm gonna go shopping now. Eye, lip, eye. Eye, lip, eye. Thank you! Thank you for listening to my silly, goofy warrior cat readings. We did it, guys. We did 3 series. That's... How many books are there in each series? 6? 5? 5, I think. 15? We've read 15 books together. Whoa. Bonkers. Crazy. Oh no, it's not! It's 6! It's 6 each. 3 times 6. What's 3 times 6? 18? We've read 18 books! 18 books together. There's actually this widget that they sell somewhere. Oh. There's this widget that they... You guys haven't seen this model in a while. Because there's so many errors that I see now. I don't want to use it because I don't want to see the angles that are weird. Also, oh my god, I've been staring at Dunn's face for so long, and his eyes are so much smaller than mine.
I look like I'm crazy, but like I have like massive eyeballs, which I guess I do because I'm an anime girl, but like even more massive than you would think. Thank you. These ones are different than my. Are they? No, I must have animated them differently. But they're animated almost the same as my other ones. I can't remember how I did those rigs. That rig, at least. This one... Okay, just don't look at my mouth because I don't have Free Bridger on. See, this one's different. I can get like, whoa! My eyes don't shrink as much, but I can get the cat. And I can like dilate them. These are better. Okay, enough of that. I miss this model. I've been staring at Dunn for so long, which is fine. I like Dunn's face. Let me see Dunn. Ready? Ready, bald? Bald! 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 I did his eyes the same as my eyes, but look at how they dilate. They dilate like a goat. Well, they can get skinny, but like when they get bigger, they get like that. I have to fix his side. Meow, 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 meow. Also, it's like really weird right now. But wow. Wow, look at this mouth sync, guys. Crazy. Crazy. I wonder who rigged it. I wonder who rigged this mouth. I really like the way that this mouth is rigged. So I think I'll always rig mouths like this from now on. This one isn't V-Bridger. It was a lot easier. There's my Pochi model. That one has really good lip sync too, but it's not as detailed. And even my normal no isn't as... I don't think it has that good of a mouth sync. It's kind of, I mean, it kind of does. It's very smooth though. I have a lot more mouth forms on this one. All right. Okay, guys, I'm not gonna rate anyone because I don't want to. Bye, guys. Wait, maybe I should. No, I don't think anyone's here. Oh, you can't see me. My... This cake looks so small. Alright, enough stalling! Enough stalling. Tomorrow, I feel like I've read so much the past few days, I shouldn't play Tavern Talk tomorrow. So I don't know what I'll do. No! Look at him go. Bye. I can't. Dark Souls, I haven't bought it yet. I don't want to start. I want to start Dark Souls when I get back from my trip because I feel like it'll be... Oh, if I start it, I'm gonna forget how to do everything by the time I get back. So I have to start it and then keep doing it, you know? I'll scramble something out. Maybe I'll pull out Rain World out of the, you know, out of the bushes or Outer Wilds, which doesn't have any gameplay that I need to play, but